Okay, good morning. I'm Commissioner Ed Rothstein from District 5. The Commissioner Ed Rothstein. Just saying.
Like your imitators.
Like I said, the Penn State, the Ohio State, the October 27th,
Francis Gecki.
Halloween.
I never said that.
Halloween coming up on Monday. Wishing all our kids and family and friends a very safe and healthy, good quality of life opportunity for Halloween. Beautiful weather. I think it's expected to be beautiful weather then as well. As we always do before we get started, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have
Can't see.
a pretty good agenda this morning, and we'll see how long it goes.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? No. Okay. Let's start, as we always do, with Priority Carol. Commissioner Boucher.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'll see what Mr. Swam has for me to come up. First, I want to say Halloween is Monday, and I want to make sure everyone is very safe with the trick-or-treating for your children, maybe some reflective stuff. Oh, here we go. I attended the Carroll County Arts Center this week to watch Dracula, and I think it's such a wonderful thing we have in downtown Westminster to show cultural things. They did an old classic, they did something for the children, they did a slasher movie to put people in the mood, and that is such a wonderful gem in downtown Westminster. I look forward to people patronizing that establishment. Do we have anything else, Mr. Swam? I think I'm short of stuff. As we're winding down as commissioners, I think some of us might be counting down the days, so we're not overly involved in stuff. I want to thank everyone for everything they've done with this commission. I'm very proud to have served the last 4 years with my colleagues and served with all the staff that's here today and out there in all the different offices. So thank you very much for all you've done. Oh, wait, what we got here? The Arts Council, stuff that's going on tonight. Like I said, the Arts Council is a wonderful resource in downtown Westminster, and please patronize it. And we're doing the Walk in the Park November 17th. That'll be at Bennett Surf Park. We're also teaming up with the Carroll County Food Sunday. We're doing a food drive. I want to thank the Food Drive Center. We did their 40th anniversary banquet the other day, and it inspired me to get in touch with the people who put this walk together and make it an event of giving, to collect food, to give less fortunate people in our community. So if you can, please get out to the Walk in the Park. This will be the second to last one. This one, we're doing a theme of a food drive to help those that are less fortunate. It is in giving that we shall receive. And the last one on December 8th, which will be 4 days after I leave office, that'll be the big one, last one for my term, and that'll be up to Oshawa Park. And I'm looking forward to possibly doing a toy drive for that. For those in our community that are less fortunate, could use some toys, please show up at these two events and give to the community. And I want to thank everyone who's participating in these walks, especially LifeBridge. I believe LifeBridge won a major award, from what I've been told by numerous people, for all their effort in the community. And hopefully we'll get LifeBridge in front of us before term ends and give them some recognition, let the public know exactly what they've been doing to contribute to our community. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Weaver.
Okay. First of all, last week, most of us attended the ribbon cutting for the Community College CDL training program. And this is relatively new, a second class, I believe, through.
Yeah, I
The
think
second
Third,
group
isn't it?
going through.
Second or third.
In case you're not aware, it takes
there you
I don't know,
go.
5 to 8 weeks of training now to get a CDL license, and the Tech Center really jumped on it and has done a great job of putting a training program together to get truck drivers certified in Carroll County. And as you know, most of our food and everything is transported by truck in this country, so shortage of drivers, and really great job there. And someone was guest speaker at this. I think Commissioner Rothstein. Good job on that.
I
So.
didn't even pay attention. Huh.
And keep on trucking, I think it says on the logo there. Early voting started this week, so please get out and vote if you haven't already. And the other thing is Halloween is coming up on Monday. Just be safe and watch out for kids out trick-or-treating or doing their thing. So enjoy the holiday. I know it's Commissioner Boucher's favorite holiday here, so
Right. I went and seen Dracula. I loved it.
well, Scooby-Doo was more my level. So, okay.
Okay, Commissioner Wentz.
Morning. Chris, you've got a couple things for me, I think, too. First off, I was honored on Friday. Well, okay, we're going to do this one first. Let me reverse. So, Miss Carroll County is Jess Bayuk. Jess lives in your district, Commissioner Rothstein. Very talented young lady who is actually working in the mental health field for students. And she came here on Monday and gave her a little tour of the facility and did a podcast. She's also a dancer for the that football team. What are they called now in Washington? They changed their name. Yeah, is that what they? Yeah. So anyway, we had fun with that, obviously, in amongst a bunch of Ravens fans here. So a very talented young lady, and she's available to appear at wherever, if there's a function or a nonprofit's having some sort of event. We'd love to get these young ladies out more into the community. So you can reach out to Jess at MissCarrollCounty.org at gmail.com. So it was a good day there. And then Friday, I had the opportunity to be to represent Carroll at the last at my final Baltimore Metropolitan Council board meeting. Some random pictures from some of the activities that I was with them over the last 8 years, and I had the honor to represent for 8 years. I took over for a guy named Howard. Remember him? Kind of anyway, and it's another incredible organization that and you all heard me say this before, that it doesn't matter what kind of a letter you have beside your name. The Baltimore Metropolitan Council is made up of Baltimore City and surrounding counties. And they do some great things. They're responsible for a lot of our transportation issues. They're also responsible for a lot of the purchasing that we do, because they have a co-op that we save a lot of money here in Carroll by going through them. And my partner in crime, Roberta Wyndham, and I have been to every Chesapeake Connect trip that they've had. So it's been a wild ride over there, and it was an honor to serve. So. County Executive Glassman and I, the two of us are going off, and based on the elections, there might be another one or two. We don't know. But the BMC, again, does remarkable work, and I encourage the next board coming in to put a good representative down there to work with our colleagues across the region. So thank you to BMC for all that they've done. And that's all that I had this week. Just a reminder, public safety, they already talked about Halloween. We had a pretty intense fire on Old New Windsor Pike on Friday evening. Everybody came up to me over the last 3-4 days and said it must have been huge, because there was about 30 pieces of fire apparatus there. Well, the issue with fire apparatus here in the county is on a Friday evening at 5 o'clock, remember, we're volunteers. So just think about what folks are doing Friday evening at 5 o'clock. Probably not standing around the firehouse waiting on a call. So a lot of this equipment went out with just 1 or 2 people on it, so they had to keep calling more equipment in order to get the right amount of personnel there. Critically important topic to bring up as we continue to see the progress of the combination system that we're creating here in the county. But we had Littlestown was here because there just wasn't enough folks to put on that scene. But it reminds us that as we get into cold weather, there are a lot of factors, and I would love to see our volunteer firefighters not have to be out on a Friday evening at 5 o'clock. Get your chimneys cleaned, pay attention to what you're doing, check your sprinkler systems, check your fire extinguishers. It's that time of year. Check, I always say the smoke detector thing, but that's almost a thing of the past now, because what you should check your smoke detectors for is to make sure you have the new ones. The new ones last 10 years, and it's really not a thing. Even if you have the old ones, I would suggest you get rid of the old one, forget about changing the battery, go to the wherever. I don't want to sit here and give a commercial for whoever, but they're very reasonably priced. When you buy them now, they're self-contained. They last for 10 years, and I would highly suggest that you replace your smoke detectors with the new ones, and also your CO detectors, because it's that time of year that we need to be thinking about that. So while we have some tremendous volunteers here that are willing to be out there in the evenings, let's keep them at home by utilizing some common sense. That's all I got.
Okay, Commissioner Frazier.
I'm actually going to start with the fire because could actually see it from my deck.
I'm sure you could.
Yep. And all the pieces of equipment were there. And people were asking me, how come, look, it must be a tremendous fire. And it was a big fire. There's so much equipment there. And I explained the exact thing you just said, Commissioner Wance.
Finally,
how many people.
you've been listening to me.
You're rubbing off. But people told me I was wrong. No, that's not the case.
Years.
No, I actually have some information here.
I actually know something.
But anyway, it was handled and so forth. And there's actually some, I don't know, soot ash or some debris from that ended up in my backyard. I was kind of surprised to see that. But it was handled, and like you said, late, or not late, but it was Friday. People were doing other things, and there was a lot of equipment there. It really was, but it was taken care of. I also mentioned early voting has started. Please go out and vote. Please get out and vote, either during early voting or the actual voting day. Either one. Please get out and vote. I attended the Royal Hospital School Choir from England. They had a performance here in Westminster. I was there with them, and they brought the band with them, and the Children's Choir of Carroll County were all there, and I went. I said, okay, I'm going to go, and it was enjoyable. But they had one particular part where they did a round, and the Royal Choir started it, and then the band came in, and then the Children's Choir of Carroll County came in, and then the people in the stands, the people in the audience sang as well. But it's just, I have to say, it was moving because of the way it was done. It was really, really well done. I'm glad I was there for that. It was really worth it going there. It really was. I'm glad they came. They actually spent the day, I believe, at Gerstel Academy, did a performance out there first, and then came to do the evening performance. I'm very happy that they were there. Also, if you notice, a number of us were in purple today. If you haven't had a stress test lately, watch the game tonight. The fourth quarter usually gets your heart going. It's just the way that happens this year. It was like, okay, if I can survive this, I think I'm pretty good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Sticking with the theme of safety, a lot of leaves falling, and I think I'll be raking for the next few weeks. It went from summer to fall, flipping a switch. There was no Indian summer, and a lot of leaves and wet leaves on roads is not a good combination, especially in warmer weather when motorcycles want to get their last rides out. So please, when you're raking the leaves, don't rake them into the roads. Rake them and pick them up. We don't need that. We don't need to leave people's bodies on the roads. You know
There was a thing on the Today Show the other day about how the experts now are saying don't rake them. You're supposed to mulch them and put them into
Right.
let them go into the ground.
Yeah,
So,
in fact, that
So
for
anyway.
us, that's what we do.
Yeah.
When we cut the yard, we mulch, and
yeah,
Right.
because the
But-
nutrients are supposed to be
Right.
good or something.
Correct.
So anyway,
but it's just just be aware. Couple things want to highlight, I guess, and I think Chris, you have Mayor Stacy Link of Sykesville. besides being the first woman mayor in Sykesville, to me, she's a rock star. She does it. It's not about words; it's about deeds. And she doesn't take herself very seriously. She takes everything she does very seriously. So she's becoming a good friend and colleague and leader for a community that is thriving. The coolest town in in the U.S. So congratulations to Stacy in becoming one of Baltimore Sun's women to watch in the community. So, and then another thing is I attended the Freedom Readiness Center down in Sykesville, ribbon cutting. And what's really cool about this is it is formally named the Major General Linda L. Singh Readiness Center. Major General Singh was the first woman or female adjutant general in Maryland history. I think she was either 37th or 38th. And what's really cool is she's still with us, and she gets to have a building named after her. So it's not in memory, it's in honor of. And she was there, the governor and his key administration was there as well, had the opportunity to say a few words. Congratulations to General Singh and all you've done, and thank you for all you've done for our community and all the things you will be doing in your future endeavors. Let's see, anything else I want to share? Oh, later this afternoon, we have an opportunity to provide a proclamation over at the hospital for World Stroke Day. And I think others will be talking about this, right? Celine, or no? Or is this just my turn? Okay. And Celine and I were talking about this, but, having the ability to identify those that are having a potential stroke and getting them to the hospital, to the services they need, is critical. Every moment counts. Every second, every minute counts in this, and to identify it. And I'll tell you, doctors will say, by people coming in, and if it wasn't a stroke and it was something else, they'd rather see 1,000 of them than one person with a stroke. So you feel that something's happening to either you or someone around you, look for these things as far as the balance, the eye movement, the face, the arms, what's happening. Get them into the hospital. Those minutes count for the medication to be applied and to minimize the effects of a stroke. I've had enough people and colleagues that I know that have gone through this, and I've also seen the goodness in expediting people into the hospital. But I think 4 of us will be going to the hospital for the proclamation. Remember to wear your mask. It's always important. The hospital is still requiring for all the right reasons. The hospital is still receiving people with COVID. So COVID's still with us, whether we believe it or not. And there are still facilities that are requiring it for all the right reasons, like where my mom is with assisted living, with hospitals and other places. So I look forward to doing a proclamation this afternoon. Okay, I think that is it that I want to talk about. We have a few other things for Priority Carol, and it's audience participation time. So, County Engineer of the Year Award. Who's coming up to talk about this? Mr. Hine. Hey, Martin.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, gentlemen.
So the County Engineers Association of Maryland is a professional association that we are members of. And every year there is a conference where technical discussions are had and presentations are made. But one of the things that they do is they make award to various projects and recognize individuals for accomplishments that benefit the communities here in Maryland. So one of the highest honors that they put out there for an individual is Engineer of the Year. And I'm very proud to announce that our very own Martin Covington was selected this year and recognized by his peers as Engineer of the Year. So Martin's been our stormwater program engineer for 26 years now, and he, among other things, helps developers through the very complex process of stormwater management for both addressing both state and local regulations. So Martin's a very dedicated engineer. He's not only dedicated to the profession, but also to the citizens of the county. So I appreciate you just taking a couple minutes and recognizing this and this accomplishment.
No, Martin, thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing it what's right. I know I get a lot of calls from developers and construction, sometime with frustration, and when I share with them the importance of doing it right and that you are the one that they're looking to, I feel very confident, with you on our team, that we are, building and constructing the quality that's necessary. And that's because of folks like you. So thank you so much from me to you. Any comments?
I've seen the your results of your work, both on paper and come to reality, and it all works.
Reality's better.
Yeah, it is. And I know the dedication you have. I've seen you here at all kind of times and hours, and I really appreciate what you put into this to make Carroll County a better place. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Covington, you've always been so friendly and informative to me and the entire staff in Land Resource Management. I will admit that when I came on this job, I heard a lot of negativity about storm water management. And I think that's due to ignorance. People just don't understand. But once I came on board and people such as yourself and Director Hines gave me a thorough understanding of the mechanics and physics of what you do and the impact it has upon our environment, especially in the state of Maryland when we have the gem of the Chesapeake Bay, which is the largest estuary on the East Coast, I believe, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So we have a stewardship here, and you guys are on the front line for the county providing that for us. And I want to thank you all for everything you've done, and congratulations on the award. You've deserved it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Just congratulations. Appreciate everything you've done. I have to say, I've been called by developers as well. Can we get this through? Can we push this through? Well, why don't we do it the right way? And I have confidence in our staff that we will do it the right way. And it's because of people like you have that confidence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Martin,
Yes, sir.
known you a long time, and you are an expert in your field. There's no question about it. Your innovation that you come up with. I remember a field trip that you and I went on up a little place up in Detour.
Yes, sir.
And created some good solutions to some problems up there by laying eyes on. And it's not always about what you put on paper. It's about the reality of it. And man, you were good that day. You really were. And that's the kind of thing where I truly appreciate what an engineer does and what they're responsible for. So kudos to you. Well deserved. In my mind, you should have gotten it before now. But I'm glad that you were recognized. And it's another feather in the cap for the great things that occur here in the county, and our staff who are incredibly dedicated at what they do. And that's the one thing, the most important thing I'm going to leave here with in 38 days. Who's counting? Is the fact that our staff is so incredibly professional and dedicated. And you, my friend, are the consummate individual that does that. And I respect you guys for that. and congratulations to you. Well deserved. So congratulations to the whole department,
Thank you.
because your department goes as the people that work in it go, and you're all doing a tremendous job. So kudos to you.
Thank you very much.
You have something to say, Martin?
Yeah, this was quite a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting this at all. And, but you know, all that stuff is, I've had tremendous help from a couple of people at the office that have helped me for many years. And we have some tremendous leadership in this department now, too. And those things make a tremendous difference. They make it all happen, right? You can only do so much. You have somebody that lets you sort of fly a little bit, you can do a lot more. And
Yeah,
that's kind of where we are.
makes a lot of sense. And this is not a self-eulogy. You're not going anywhere. So we'll just make that known right now.
We're not naming any
Hey,
buildings.
let's
out.
put a photo.
Congratulations to Mark.
Yeah. I think when they name a building after you're alive, you get nervous.
That stroke discussion you guys had earlier. That's right.
Thank you. It has been for a while. I pull up on it when I get frustrated over here.
Okay, this is pretty cool. Let's talk about the Community Collaboration Award. And I see, Katie, you're in the audience. And so Katie, Celine, Danielle, and anybody else you want to come up to the table. But I'm just going to start off by saying, Katie, I really appreciate all you do for our community. A couple years ago when, COVID really hit us hard, and I apologize, Celine, just real quick. We were short on food, and we had to do these pop-up pantries, and it was brought to my attention. And you played a pivotal role in that, garnering and getting food for these pantries that we did. You're the type of person, you see a problem and you come up with a solution with Together We Own It. And I just want to say thank you for all you're doing for our community. So you got a lot of energy, and I like that. Again, don't take yourself serious. Do everything you do very seriously. So, okay, Celine.
I think rather than coming to the table, I'm going to stay here at the mic because we have quite a crew here today. And the reason we're here today is thanks to Katie recognizing our team very unexpectedly. We were invited to join Together We Own It at their annual Bull and Oyster Roast this past weekend. And so some of our team were able to attend. And while we were there, they did an award presentation, and lo and behold, Citizen Services and specifically our local management board team and our youth serving team within the Bureau of Housing were recognized with the Community Collaboration Award by Katie. And it was really an honor because it was so unexpected, but also because of the work that our team does. In the audience today, obviously we have Katie Speart, who's the Executive Director of Together We Own It, and thank you for the award. Danielle Yates, our Bureau Chief of Housing and Community Connections. We have Carrie Vertz and Javier Toro. They are both two of our 3 housing stability coordinators, specifically that work with the youth. That's why they're engaged with this award. And then also Gabby Zelaya, who is our local management board manager, very important in this collaboration with Together We Own It. So we just wanted to say thank you to Katie, and thank you for all that you do, serving some of our most at-risk youth in the community with very specific needs. So thank you.
No, thanks, Celine. If I can ask Carrie or Javier to talk about your work in housing stability as a housing stability coordinator, either one or both of you. Just
Put them on the spot.
Put me on the spot. Okay. So, Housing Stability Coordination has been awesome for the Bureau of Housing, in my personal opinion, not just because I have a role in it, but we kind of take that wraparound services, and although we're not case management, we offer that extended support to people. So what we found is we can give you a housing voucher, and we can give you that opportunity to have some subsidy to afford the cost of living in Carroll County that we live in, but we don't give you that connection to resources and making sure they have the mental health counseling or services like Katie with their families and children going through the school system has been really helpful for us to go ahead and make that connection, but also to follow with them, making sure those budgeting skills are there, making sure when they fall in hard times, they know how to pick themselves back up. And it's just been a great opportunity for me to be a part of because I get to see aspects of the community that I didn't know about. I've lived in Carroll County my whole life, but there's different facets and communities that I haven't been a part of until working in this department.
Oh,
anything to
Carrie.
add?
Javier?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Well, adding to what Kerry mentioned, but pretty much awesome. It's the Housing Stability Program has made a great impact in the community because it also gives hope to those that need that little extra motivation to improve their current situation. It also gives voice to those that unfortunately don't have a voice and don't know where to go for help. We've been able to gain the trust of those in that community that for many years haven't had somebody tell them, you can trust on me, we'll improve your situation, give us a chance. It's a great experience, and I hope that programs like these continue to thrive in the county because it is making a positive impact. It is giving everybody the opportunity that Carroll County gave me to call Carroll County home. So
No.
that's pretty much about it. Thank you.
Oh,
Muchas
wonderful.
gracias.
And you know, you're defining in one word resiliency, and you're picking people up like you shared. So Celine, Danielle, Gabby, you must be very proud of the work they're doing. You know, boots on the ground. So, okay, we're ready for a picture. Or where else you want to go, Celine, with this? Okay.
A picture, unless Katie, did you want to
Yeah, Katie, you want to come up?
say anything about your agency and the work that you folks do?
By the way, Javier's a pretty mean chef too.
Yeah. We've all experienced
Pretty mean
that.
chef right there.
Putting them down
I'm looking
comedy.
forward to next year's Heritage.
No, he's
Hispanic Heritage Month.
he can bring it. He can bring it to the table. I can tell you.
Okay.
Do we have to wait till next year's Hispanic Heritage Month?
Go ahead, Katie.
Sure. Well, we were really excited to host our annual Bull and Oysters this year. We missed the last 2 years due to the pandemic, so we're really excited to bring it back. And this year we thought, what better to do than bring community into our event and really celebrate our partners. And so we made 3 awards this year, one being to our local management board and Department of Citizen Services. This team of people here, they're in our agency almost every day, it feels like, some weeks. Every time I talk to Gabby on the phone, well, I'll see you tomorrow. We have such a great partnership, and that's what really has allowed us to bring children and families out of their circumstances and get them housed. I mean, Carrie, sometimes is at our center multiple times a week, and being able to have this relationship and this partnership and break down, we always say, break down those silos of children and family serving organizations here. We're not competition. We're all looking to serve our community in the best way possible, and the way that we do that is integrating the work that we do. And so this team has been they've really supported our organization. They've allowed us to grow and allowed us to serve more during the pandemic when we switched to kind of mobilizing as a food resource. We served 3,000 people in 12 weeks, and we're a small team of 4, so we couldn't have done that on our own. It really took partnerships like the people in this room to make that possible. So we're really excited to be here, and we're really excited to continue partnership with this team. So thank you.
Katie, really well said. Any comments?
Well, if it wasn't for citizen services and all the partnerships, this county would have a mess on its hand. You all uplift people and increase their quality of life. So what you do is a tremendous contribution to this county and assisting us in actually governing the county. So we're very much indebted to all you do. And a lot of people wouldn't want to face and do what you do. You deal with a lot of people in crisis in their life, and you give an outpouring of your heart, sympathy, and empathy to those individuals and turns their life around. So bless you all for everything you do for our community.
Okay. Anything else?
I just want to say Carroll County is all about collaboration. If you go outside of Carroll County and talk to other counties, It doesn't happen this way all over the place. Carroll County is unique, and I think the collaboration between all agencies, the way things work, makes us unique, and thank you for what you do.
Yeah, well said.
Yep. Same thing for me. Same theme as the last one, I guess. You know, I didn't realize the extent as to what citizen services and the various agencies that are attached to them were responsible for in this county back in 2014. By gosh, I learned in 8 years just exactly what is accomplished and how you accomplish that. So to all of you, another part that will remain with me after I leave here that is just remarkable. So you all do amazing work, and keep it up, and I know you will. So just huge thank you from us and from those in which you have reached out to and changed lives. Thank you.
And again, this is not a eulogy. Nobody's leaving anywhere. Okay.
Well, I am, but they're not. Yeah.
Like I said, those that are doing aren't leaving anywhere. Ready?
Picture?
Yeah.
No.
You want to stay up here? That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we stay up here and you all come on up?
There's a lot of people. So if we do the level layered thing,
It'll make you look taller.
yeah, it makes me look taller.
That's good.
However you want to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Katie, coming in.
Javi, are you cooking today?
No.
We should send them over to Exploration Commons. They have that kitchen
Okay,
down
let's.
there.
Remember, we're going to host a class.
Really?
Yes.
Good. See, there you go. Thank you. Or gracias.
Okay. Is that for this?
For the first agenda item.
Okay, our first agenda item is delegation of authority. Are there any, Chris, do we have anybody on the phone?
No, sir.
Okay, and there's no public comments for this that I see. There you go.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. So this is something that the county's had for years and years and years. It's simply a resolution that allows staff to sort of follow through with the work and the direction that the board has given, and keeps the board from doing all sorts of ministerial things that you don't have the time to do. So most of the changes here are ministerial. There are a couple that are substantive that I'll go over, and then this is, affects pretty much every director. Well, it affects every director and staff, and so that's why pretty much all of them are here, because they all have a hand in this. This is not mine or Tim's resolution. So first is the name change. It had been traditionally called the Signature Authority Resolution, and in discussing it with staff, we all felt that that really wasn't appropriate. It's more of a delegation of authority, because it goes beyond who can sign what. So that name change seemed to make sense. Couple ministerial things. We removed commissioners of Carroll County and just called it the board, so there's a lot of red associated with that. And then going down to number 1, you see it there. It's not showing up in red on screen, but you have it in front of you. It clarifies the board president's ability to sign certain documentation on behalf of the board. This has been something that board presidents have done for, well, as long as I've been here, and I'm sure longer than that, but now it makes it clear. And then, of course, we added the vice president of the board, just in case the board president wasn't available. Going on to the next page. So we removed the word purchase orders from paragraph 2, because really only procurement staff is supposed to sign those. So that snuck in there sometime over the years, and now we've removed it. And then B here is one of the substantive changes. it's sort of ministerial clarification change and a substantive change. So I'll go over the substantive change first. Currently, the current authority allows change orders up to, you can go to the second page, thanks, up to $100,000. And the way, and this is changing that to $150,000. So if there's a contract or a construction project or something that has change orders, currently when that $100,000 is reached, then staff have to come back to get more authority. This would change that 100 to 150. The way it's written now is very confusing. It was written from the dais by a prior board member years ago. I've always tried to prohibit two things. One is what I call open session math, because none of us can seem to do math on the spot in open session. And the other is writing documentation from the dais also. It just doesn't seem to work out very well. And it's been confusing and difficult for staff to work with for a long time. So what we've done is separated it into two sections, and this is sort of the more ministerial portion of it. So for projects up to $1.5 million, the change order would have to they'd have to come back when it was over 10% of the value of that project. So, so if you have your $50,000 project, you don't want them to have $150,000 worth of change orders before they come back to the board. So they would have a $5,000 limit in that case. So for small projects, it would be possibly as much as 150, but that's where the 10% is. Then for larger projects that are in value over over $1.5 million, then the change order limit would be that $150,000. So no time would it be more than $150,000, but it could be less if the project were small. And then something that was left out and has been unclear is exactly what happens once that now $100 or in the future $150,000 limit or the change order limit were reached. It's unclear what we do. So what we've put in here is once that's reached, it's sort of, and the board approves the change order, it sort of resets and gives that next pot of money to as much as potentially $150,000 before the next change order has to be approved. Does that make sense? And then going on to the next page, the number 4, again, something that we do regularly is most grants have to be signed by the president of the board, so this puts it in here. And then as we've learned over these last couple years the county's gotten federal grants for years and years, but life has changed a lot over the last 5 or 10 years, and especially with COVID. A lot more things are done electronically, and so now the way it works is once especially a federal grant is approved, the grants office then has responsibility for sort of managing that grant and signing those grant documents and things, and it's all done electronically. So this makes it clear that upon approval of those kinds of grants, the grants manager has your authority to electronically sign those documents. And then, so then the next change is for the director specifically of Land and Resource Management. They shows what he in this case he can sign, and it also goes into ag easements, which are not again were silent previously, and how we do national NPDES, National Pollutant Elimination Discharge System procurements and awarding of contracts. So this is the way we've done it for years, but now we put it in here and made it clear, put it in writing. And then number 6 is all added. It was taken out. It has been, this language was all in prior resolutions up until 2015. It was taken out in 2015 for I don't know what reason, honestly. It's very very ministerial kind of things, small little transfers and budgetary stuff. Ted can explain more if you'd like. And then number 7 deals with economic development specifically. Back 2 boards ago, there had been a split. The board split economic development sort of into 2 things. They called it economic development and workforce development and entrepreneurship. So this cleans up all of that. It gets rid of, I don't remember which board now, merged those 2 back together again. It's been many years. So it cleans that all up because that's all been eliminated. And then again, it adds the language that they can sign leases associated with economic development projects, something they do. And then last, the grant of authority to doesn't supersede any kind of procurement. That's in there already. We just used to call it Bureau of Purchasing. Now we call it Procurement Office, so we've cleaned that up. And just really flip things around so it's a little cleaner in the way it's read. And then there are other state laws and other things that grant various authorities along the way, and so the last sentence is simply that that this doesn't abrogate any of those. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if you have any specific questions, and then of course the end is just changing signatures and stuff like that. So that's it.
For all the right reasons. So okay, so let's take a pause. Any questions or comments on this?
My concern is a budgetary concern. I was wondering if Director Zaleski want to weigh in. I want to make sure that this does not affect the budget in the future. Like maybe they come to the budget office for issuing these additional charges.
No, absolutely not. This is not about spending decisions. It's not about policy decisions. It's really just about managing the decisions the board has already made.
Good.
Yeah,
So-
for example, one of the things that's in here, every year we come to you, it's a crunch time for the budget and for accounting, and we come to you to move the money from the HR budget to all the separate budgets. Nothing is changing except where money is.
Right.
This would allow us to just get that done without having to make it a commissioner item.
This has the ability to execute the budget that has been approved. Again, the job we do is to establish a budget, and it's got to be very clear. And I say it often when we purchase things, it's within the budget, no additional cost. So this is the ability to execute the budget of what we have already approved. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I
Again,
appreciate the reassurance on that. And I had also reached out to their delegation twice. They never weighed in on it, so seems pretty good.
this has nothing to do with state or delegation. Right. They would never weigh in on this.
It does make
Zero.
sense.
Yeah. There's nothing legislative about this as far as the state's concerns. This is county processes, procedures, like Ted just shared and like Roberta did. So the idea that it's a state issue is probably why they would never have weighed in on this.
It does become a political issue because when we have touched on this in a previous, we had some public outcry, and I think it would be best. And I think Ted's or Director Zaleski's comments are reassuring. And the main thing is to let the public know that we're very diligent on this. So thank you.
There's nothing political about this. The best part about the work we do is administering this, resource management, and this is really well done. So I appreciate the due diligence that you did
Thank you.
with the staff.
Yeah,
Roberta, on this.
It's been on my plate for a couple years, and unfortunately, a little thing called COVID got in the way. It's been a goal of mine to just get this done because, as I say, so many of these things are just ancient history that are
Right.
need to be cleaned up.
I agree.
So,
Like the percentage of the total contract on some of these things. In the 8 years that I've been here, I've often said, why are they here?
right.
I know.
Our directors have a responsibility.
Right.
They should have the responsibility to be able to
Implement your direction.
Implement that stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of coming
yeah.
here and, you know, it's
I
almost
agree.
like, you know, I don't know. I just think that makes sense. I think that's a good thing.
And it's not delegating authority of establishing the budget. It's allowing the directors to execute what we have already established.
Based
Right.
on the fact that they're in that position for a reason.
Right.
It says
Exactly.
throughout, right. It says throughout the document in various places.
Yeah.
You know, after board direction, after board concurrent, whatever, different ways it said the same thing. But yes, this is
Okay.
With
So
that, I move the Board of County Commissioners adopt the delegation of authority resolution as presented.
I'll second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain from it.
You're abstaining from it?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a 4-0-1 on this. Okay.
thank you.
Let's talk about submit
I cleared the room.
supplemental
Was it
COVID
something you
relief
guys said?
and mitigation funding. Celine. Danielle.
Good morning again, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Before you today, I've introduced her earlier. We have Danielle Yates, who is our Bureau Chief of Housing and Community Connections. And we're here before you, as you said, we're seeking approval to submit the supplemental COVID relief and mitigation funding application and accept the award. This is a kind of an innovative funding stream that has come up. Typically, we don't see grants come down this way, but the Department of Health, Maryland Department of Health, recently partnered with the Department of Housing and Community Development to coordinate the administration of additional CDC funding for the mitigation and response to COVID-19 among people experiencing homelessness. So this funding came about, and then a few days later, there was also a release of additional ESG COVID funding also made available through DHCD. So they talked and collaborated and decided they were going to coordinate both of these funding streams because the eligibility requirements and the use of the funding was quite similar. So they have announced this award. Carroll County is slated to apply for $45,000 of this COVID mitigation funding. Our plan for this funding is really to look at how we can prepare for if there is another surge of COVID, if we need to isolate, quarantine, provide additional resources to those homeless individuals in our community to make sure that they're safe and that there's no additional spread of COVID. So we are earmarking some of this funding for emergency rapid rehousing dollars, additional street outreach supplies, and also hoteling if needed to mitigate COVID circumstances. So with that, the funding that we are looking to use would be $40,500 for the mitigation and response. We are able to use 10% of this funding for administrative costs, so we're looking to earmark $4,500 of that for administrative costs for the total of $45,000. And as you see, there is no county required match, which I know you always appreciate. Did you have any questions regarding the funding or the grant?
Did you go after this, or did it just get handed down to you?
We just received an email regarding the funding being made available, which is really nice.
That is really nice.
So, but we do have to apply. It's a
Sure.
small application. Corey Hardinger with the Grants Office has been working on the application process with us, and that's ready to go with your approval.
Man, love the teamwork. Great.
How'd they get to the $45,000?
I believe it
Was there I mean, I guess they had some kind of,
I'm sure there's always
Formula
a formula
somewhere.
Yeah.
of some
Based on
sort.
our number
Right, based on number of
homeless
based on, okay,
Cool.
all right. Sounds good. Well, I'll make the motion that we approve the submission of the Supplemental COVID Mitigation Funds app and then accept the award.
Second.
Yeah, I got a motion, got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now let's talk about AARP, Age Friendly Community Initiative, awarding a vendor. Oh, okay. Y'all have been doing a lot of work with AARP. Appreciate it.
Good morning,
Good morning, ladies.
Commissioners. We are here to request your approval to award a contract to Donna Newworth as a consultant to implement the AARP Age-Friendly Initiative in Carroll County. This program would run through September the 30th, 2024, at a cost not to exceed $100,000. The Office of Procurement did solicit requests for statements of qualifications on public purchase for this service, but no SOQs were received. After an exhaustive search, the Bureau of Aging was made aware of Ms. Newworth, who then went through the SOQ process, and submitted an SOQ and was interviewed. And funding for this project is through the American Rescue Plan, which the board has previously approved the acceptance of, and these funds now needs to award a vendor, and no additional funds are anticipated. And I'm going to either let Celine or Gina talk about the program itself.
So we were before you to present about the AARP Age-Friendly Community Initiative. And so this is the next step in moving the initiative forward. Donna Delano Newworth, she has an extensive aging background. She worked for Maryland Department of Aging for a number of years as their long-term services and supports manager, also their legislative liaison. So she's very familiar with our programs and services in the Aging Network. Her most recent relevant experience is that she worked for Baltimore County Department of Aging in the process of implementing their age-friendly community initiative. So she's familiar with this process, with the requirements to implement the initiative, including the needs assessment, the focus groups, the listening sessions. And so she also brings lessons learned and best practices as well. So we should feel like she's a very good fit for this initiative.
When's the start date?
The start date? Well, we were accepted into the aging into this initiative, into the network in April. And so we have until September 2024 to utilize the funding for the consultant position.
But bringing her on board, is it through September 2024?
Yes.
So is the start date upon approval of this?
And the execution of the contract.
And the execution of the contract. So really you're expecting a 15 November, type of start date?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And we're excited, and I don't think we could have found a better fit for this position.
Yeah.
This really was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is going to be a great initiative with her and Gina spearheading it together.
And there's space for her in your workplace, or where will she?
Some of it will be remote work for her as well, but yes, we have and will find space for her.
Yeah, I get you. Okay. No, it sounds like a great use of the money, and more importantly, like you said, a great find in her, with the experience. There's no build up to her, skill set. She's there, sounds like. So great. I'll move the Board of Commissioners award a contract to Donna Delano Newworth to assist in the implementation of the AARP Friendly Initiative in Carroll County at a cost not to exceed $100,000.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
And Gina, thanks for the work you're doing with a couple folks. I'm kind of pushing your way with
Yep,
the veterans. So
Absolutely.
Okay,
Very
thanks.
welcome.
Approval for the FY23, MALF. So we got 10 MALF applications.
Sit back and relax.
No. I love looking at these properties. They're awesome. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning.
Morning. So we're here to discuss projects to be submitted to the state MALF program. We had 16 applications. 6 of those were critical farms that have already been approved and submitted. So these are for the remaining 10. that we are asking for permission to submit them to the state for consideration for their program. So JP is going to run through the various projects. If I could recommend, we have, as is on the agenda, we have 10 of them. Happy to answer questions as we go through each, but I am assuming with Mr. Burke's concurrence that we can approve all 10 at the end with one motion. So if that's...
So what you're saying is you have a lot of confidence in JP to
I-
be able to demonstrate the value of this.
I have the
Okay.
utmost confidence.
The utmost confidence. Okay.
Pretty good.
All right, awesome. I appreciate your time today, Commissioners. As Chris said, we're here to get approval for the FY23 MALF application cycle. These applications have already been sent to the state. All the applications have met all the qualifications for the MALF program. They all include 50% class 1, 2, and 3 soils. They're all at least 50 acres unless they're adjacent already to a preserved farm. And they all have at least one minimum lot right, which is required by MALF. The farms are all ranked using land evaluation and site assessment scoring. And appraisals will be used. Those appraisals are actually taking place as we speak. And the state is, or the county is committed at 40% cost share with a bond that equals $1.33 million.
I apologize, just real quick. With knowing what these properties are there going to be any abstentions from any of us on these properties? If there's not, then we can do this collectively. Okay. Okay, good.
So this cycle includes 1,134 acres to be preserved. We have 16 farms, and as Chris stated, 6 of those farms have already been approved by you as critical farms. Today, we are seeking approval on the 10 remaining farms, and they were approved by the advisory board June 15th, 2022. The first farm's a smaller farm, Phil and Rita Basler on Burt Koontz Road in Tawnytown. It's 9.91 acres. There are 3 lots to retire, and this is part of District 1. This is where the farm sits. It's a nice little donut hole there in between a lot of MALF and one county easement. Second, we have the Jonathan and Jessica Collins farm. This is near Frizzleburg, Old Tawnytown Road, Westminster. It's 81.22 acres. We have 3 lot rights to retire, and this is also in District 1. This is where the farm sits. They're just behind Frizzleburg, next to a large MALF property. The next farm we have is James and Jennifer Dieter, 6630 Keysville Road in Keymar. It's 43.52 acres. We will be retiring 4 lot rights on this farm, and this is also in District 1. This is where the farm sits, right along Keysville Road, right up against the county easement. Our next farm is the Mark and Julie Fisher Farm, Mayberry Road in Westminster. It's a 20-acre parcel. We have 1 lot right to retire, and this is also in District 1. You can see this farm sits right next to another county easement and a large block of MALF easement property. Our next farm is the Robert Half Farm, 3637 Old Hanover Road in Westminster, 19.42 acres. And we have 1 lot to retire, and this is also in District 1. You can see how this property sits right there off of Old Hanover Road. We're getting an awful lot of property in that area. We just recently approved some of these, and we also recognized them at our Carroll County Land Trust dinner. It's noting the Jeanette property just across the street from there, which I think is our next property. So this is the Cynthia G. Jeanette Farm, 3528 Old Hanover Road in Westminster, 37.32 acres, and we'll be retiring 2 lot rights. This is also in District 1. This is where it sits against that same group of farms. This is the Karen G. Syrian property. This is right south of Tawnytown, right off of Stone Cipher Road, and it includes 76 acres, and we'll be retiring 3 lot rights. Do you have a question, Commissioner Rothstein?
Nope.
Okay.
No, thanks.
This is also in District 1.
Is that
Yes, sir.
isn't that the one that Tawnytown's been working with as a result of their bypass issue that they're trying to address up there?
Yes, sir.
And they got that worked out with Karen?
They have.
Okay.
They have.
Yeah, I talked to her a couple times. That's why.
Constant contact with Jim Wyprecht and have letters printed off and saved in the files.
Okay.
Good.
So we're in very good shape with Tawnytown.
All right. Good.
This is where her farm sits. The lines don't match up because it's been reconfigured. So that's the only thing that I want to note there. Like I said, 76 acres and 3 lot rights will be retiring. Francis Swift and Susan Lynch Farm, 1200 Stone Road in Westminster. This is a large farm, 182 acres, retiring 3 lot rights. This is also in District 1.
It's right behind me.
Yeah, this is a beautiful property.
Yeah.
And it's, covering a good bit of acreage there, right in between the mouth and the county easement.
I think I can see my house on that map.
Which color is which?
Blue is a county easement, green is mouth easements, and the red ones are land trust easements. So
Thanks.
they're probably MET or something like that.
I always forget, thanks.
No problem. Okay, this is 3 Russells LLC right outside of Manchester off of Locust Street. It's 90.45 acres. We're retiring 6 lot rights, and it's also in District 1. It makes a note there that that's areas in the growth area, so we are not seeking an easement on that area. This is where it fits in with other easement properties in the area. This is the Maynard and Teresa T. Hart property, 2307 Uniontown Road in Westminster. They will be putting 24.07 acres under easement, retiring 2 lot rights. You can see on the left side of the property there, the lots that they recently acquired because they wanted to be in our program. So these people made a great effort monetarily to participate in the program and retire those lot rights.
So they bought the 2 properties to the left there in order to have lot rights to retire.
They did.
Wow.
I don't think they're going to get a quarter of their money back.
Like that.
So,
Dedication.
yeah. So this is adjacent to land trust easement, as we pointed out earlier, with the red shading across the street. And this is where it sits along Uniontown Road. And that's the end of the slideshow. So we request final approval for these 10 farms, all in District 1 for the MALF program.
That's why it's the #1 district.
Really nice properties.
Of course it is. It's
Yes, sir.
District 1.
As I said, some very nice properties.
Of course it is, because it's District 1, as I said.
Gosh.
Over 1,100 acres.
Yes, so
Yeah, it's really good.
currently we have 77,556 acres preserved, and this will add another 1,134 acres.
Oh.
So tentatively, that'd be 78,690 acres when these are finally settled, which will be quite a time from now.
Yeah.
Great job.
I like how
stuff.
creative you've been with this, getting the smaller properties in, because I know it's becoming tougher and tougher each year to collect together the acreage we need.
Yeah, these, the smaller properties work a little better with MALF. So we try to get the programs to fit the applicants. You know, sometimes they are set with what they want to do depending on payment method or something like that, but we always try to do the best for the landowner.
Okay.
And to make it clear, this isn't something we force upon people. This is something
This is
they
a voluntary
solicit.
program.
Right. Yep.
Everybody
Volunteer.
participates voluntarily.
Well, I'll make the motion that we give final approval to the 10 properties in District 1 as presented
Second.
for the MALF program.
Thank you.
Let me think about this. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you go.
District 1 will become part of 2, so
Yeah, part
Some
of
of
this will
this-
be in 2
in the near future.
Some of this will be 2. Just saying.
Is there a point,
Yeah,
Weaver, that you're going for here?
that's the way it should have been originally.
Which you know, about 7 years ago, I gladly gave it to you anyway.
Well, it happened. You see what happens?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank
Let's
you.
talk about the approval to proceed to public hearing, financial assurance plan.
What are you doing?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So,
Number
as you're,
5.
Miss 5.
You went 4 to 6?
Must have.
Okay.
Okay, I got it.
Let's talk about 5.
yes, Commissioner. So, we're here to discuss the county's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, NPDES permit, which is a permit that's issued to us by the Maryland Department of the Environment. And state law requires that every 2 years we come before you and present what our budget is looking forward to the next 6 years. 5-6 years, and that we have a public hearing related to it, and then send that information to the state for affirmation that you are funding the requirements necessary to meet the permit for the next permit term. So with me today is Janet O'Meara, Bureau Chief of Bureau of Resource Management, and Ed Singer, who is the Watershed Restoration Coordinator. So they're going to take you through the presentation, and then ultimately we'll request approval to go to public hearing for this. So with that, turn over to Janet.
Thank you. So as Chris mentioned, we are here today because we are required to go to public hearing regarding the county's financial assurance plan to assure that adequate funding is being set aside for us to meet our NPDES permit requirements. In 2015, Senate Bill 863 repealed the mandate for a stormwater management fee, but did require reporting to ensure that adequate funding was being set aside, which then requires this financial assurance plan to be submitted to MDE every 2 years at the anniversary date of our NPDES permit, which is December 29th. As you can see, the first report was filed on July 1st, 2016, and then every 2 years thereafter, where we must demonstrate sufficient funding to meet the anticipated costs for the next 2 years. We must hold a public hearing, and the FAP must be approved for submission to MDE. And then MDE then has to make the financial assurance plan available on their website 14 days after it's submitted to them. And then within 90 days, MDE has to determine if our plan does have adequate funding. And then as part of their reporting requirements, it will go to the governor and the environmental committees of the General Assembly by September 1st annually. The report to essentially evaluates compliance of our Phase 1 MS4 and those other jurisdictions that are also Phase 1.
So our permit requirement is that we restore a certain amount of impervious surface through our restoration program during the term of the permit. Our most recent permit, the fourth generation permit, expired in December 31st of 2019. It was administratively extended by the Department of the Environment. We're in the process of of working with the department for the fifth generation permit to be issued, which we're anticipating will happen within the next couple of months, but right now it's administratively extended. The previous requirement was 20% of our baseline of the 8,070 acres. 8,070 acres that was identified as our baseline, or 1,614 acres we had to restore with the fourth generation permit. And the new permit, the fifth generation permit, tentatively requires us to restore 14% of the baseline, or 1,217 acres. So under the fourth generation permit, we exceeded that by a little bit, by 0.2%. Under the administrative extension right now, we're at 10.9%. And we've made great progress on this, largely because we were able to obtain a number of grants and do some fairly large projects to make progress already towards our requirement in our fifth generation permit.
All right. So we have been working, and based on the 5-year approved budget plan, have assembled financials to cover FY22 through FY27, showing our operating and CIP projected annual costs to meet our program goals. So we have, you know, the CIP that is approved. We have our planning document, which shows projects that we anticipate completing in order to hit that 14% goal. And we do have, I think, as part of our plan, we're anticipating 16% just to give us a little bit of cushion if a project were to fall through or not be completed in that 5-year permit term. So just laying out our fund sources, which we have to supply MDE. As a table in the financial assurance plan, we show the cash that is available, the debt service in bonds, and then grants that we've received in FY22 and 23. But unfortunately, we can't commit to grant funding, even though we will continue going after those grant funds in the out years. So we do have hopes, and you know, that we'll receive substantial grant funding to support and offset county funds. The slide now shows the projected annual and 5-year revenues and other funds that will be used to meet the permit terms. So we have our revenue versus cost, showing that we have ample revenue to support the project costs anticipated here to meet the permit goals.
Mr. Mayor, what is the major projects involved that cause the bump in the center of that, the expenditures going up? Is there big projects on the horizon?
Yeah, so we do have some significant projects in the Hampstead area that we're working on in design right now, but we do anticipate construction, as you can see, in FY24. These are very large stormwater facilities and areas downstream where, when modeling's done, we need to reduce the runoff.
Right. So it's in the Hampstead area, projects for them.
The other thing that to take into consideration is that our projects kind of go in cycles. So we did a lot of construction work leading up to the end of our permit in 2019. So there was a lot of construction work. The design portion of these projects takes a couple of years. So we had a lot of construction in 2019. We're now, for the past couple of years, been working on design, so our costs go down. But then as those projects are ready for construction, there's a tick up in costs because now we're building all of those.
So this is a normal cycle.
So it's a cycle, yes. We would love to have that evened out, but because we came to the end of
office.
because we came to the end of our permit in 2019, we had to get projects done for that permit ending, and so that kind of compressed a lot of construction around that time frame. So we're working to even it out, but there's this cyclical design versus construction time frame that we're dealing with.
Thanks for explaining that.
Mm-hmm.
If only you had an outstanding engineer to design this.
So next steps moving forward, we're here today to request your approval to move to public hearing, which, if approved, we will be back next week on November 3rd. And then, you know, ultimately the summation is to submit the financial assurance plan with our annual report no later than December 29th of this year.
This just seems like another way to deal with the rain tax that was repealed. I mean, that's all this is.
It really is. It's an accounting exercise.
Right.
Yes.
And, you know, Governor Hogan repealed it as soon as he could. And this is just another way to deal with the costs.
Yeah.
So.
And rightfully so in the case of Carroll County, because the county has always supported the NPDS program and always funded it to the levels that are necessary. So a rain tax in our county was not needed. And so this is just the validation to the state that we are committed, continue to be committed to the funding necessary to meet our permit requirements.
That's the message.
Yes.
Very well said. Thank you. Okay.
With that, I'll make the motion. The Board of County Commissioners approve the request to proceed to public hearing on the 2022 financial assurance plan as required by law.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's talk about the funding offer from 911 Board and proposed contract with Sanborn Map Company. Scott, personnel changes, are they known within your office?
The personnel changes that I mentioned?
Yeah.
One was anticipated, was one of those we knew was going to come eventually. The other, unfortunately, I guess you could say we always knew was a possibility, is one of those that you hope never came to fruition. But I'll simply say the one that affects Ms. Hawkins that I'd like to just mention, and I'm very happy to be joined by Valerie Hawkins, our county's emergency manager, the one that affects her operation. I think she saw this as always a potential because
I'm just saying, let's not be cryptic. I mean, we're talking about Matt.
Yes, our
So,
assistant emergency manager has notified us that he's going to pursue another opportunity of employment. The fact is, I think it's just a testimony to the quality individual that he is, et cetera. And this is something that's near and dear to him, the focus of this opportunity. So we just wish him the best and all the confidence in the world that Valerie will find a way to continue the outstanding emergency management service her group provides.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Commissioners, we have a couple of items for you today. The first one on the agenda it's titled Planimetric Mapping. What eventually you're going to hear, we're going to ask you for, I'll call it a combined motion because there is state 911 board funding involved to proceed, and then we have to award a contract with those funds. But instead of asking you to make two separate motions, which implies there's actually two separate decisions to be made, we're going to ask you to make a motion that says you will hopefully accept the funding and award the contract for which the funds have been offered, because that's the only reason the number of board is offering the fundings we're discussing. In a nutshell, we talked about the planimetrics, and I don't want to read verbatim from the brief, but the planimetrics is a fundamental feature of geographic information systems, or GIS mapping. As the brief points out, there is a variety of significant benefits of this planimetrics mapping that 911 call takers specifically would benefit from. Again, everything from to be able to more accurately determine the location of an emergency, provide precise directions to an emergency location. And we all know in the business that the more time you save, the better chance you have to protect lives and property. So this will definitely work in that regard. The county has existing planimetric data, but it's old, which means it's unreliable. It's not accurate. As a result, a request was put together, and I'd like to also acknowledge Director Hein is here because he has expertise that we don't in the planimetric mapping that we were greatly beneficial from. And under his leadership, we were able to put together a multi-department well, what would we benefit from request that had a 911 primary benefit. That I can't say that strongly enough. This is the lead of this is 911. But the Maryland 911 Board will say openly, if there are additional benefits to something, great. If others in addition to, but you have to prove the 911 benefit, and anything beyond that is, as I like to say, icing on the cake. In this case, there were a number of features that other folks would benefit from, other agencies that is. We compiled that, and a request was put before the Maryland 911 Board to fund a project for $183,636.94. And the way this project would be accomplished is, I believe it's triannually. The state of Maryland does aerial flyovers, aerial photography. Mm-hmm. The state contract mandates that the successful vendor, in this case Sanborn Mapping Company, offer the opportunity to execute what's called buy-ups. So the state will provide the basic information, but the contract the state issues for that says local entities, local governments have the opportunity to buy up in addition to. Because Jack Brown was successful in getting funding from the Maryland 911 Board, we are able to exercise that buy-up option, if you will, in the amount of $183,636.94 at no cost to the county. The Numbers Board has approved funding for that. So ultimately, what we're here to ask you to do is to please accept the funding offered by the Maryland 911 Board and award the contract for these buy-ups, or for this buy-up, if you will, this planimetric mapping function, for the dollar amount shown using those funds.
Was this competitive?
The state contract is definitely competitive. Matter of fact, it was all evaluated to make sure that the county and Ms. Dunn, our procurement officer, did sign off on that. It was within our confines to exercise this. The state contract was evaluated, et cetera. So we're fine from that perspective. And I will throw it out there that I'd mentioned that our current information is dated. So I think it's reasonable to ask, well, what will we do in the future? And that's very clear. We will ask for funding to do an updated effort. Worst case scenario, if that doesn't get funded, but this does, we're already more current, more accurate than we have right now. So there's a benefit regardless of what we do in the future.
And this was put into the budget. There's nothing additional that we're looking for at this point.
I will say it's the opposite, Commissioner. The project was taken to the Numbers Board to request funding for them because they approved it. That's why we are here. If they wouldn't have offered the funding, we would not be asking you to spend this money. It's using Maryland 911 Board funding.
Okay.
There is zero cost to the county.
I apologize. Thanks. Okay.
Well, I'll make the motion. Board of County Commissioners accept the $183,636.94 of funding offered by the Maryland 911 Board and authorize the Director of Public Safety to execute the proposed agreement with Sanborn Map Company, including payment of the bills.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, a couple seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's talk about the renewal of the contract agreement with Everbridge.
Thank you for the first motion, Commissioners. Greatly appreciated. What I'd like to do, Commissioners, if I may I turn this over to you? And I'd like to ask, I'm asking, but just to set the table, the county has utilized Everbridge as its emergency notification system for years, as was pointed out in the brief, since 2015. But there is a bit of a difference in what we're asking for today, in that it includes a budgeted upgrade to what we are currently doing. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Ms. Hawkins.
So as Director Campbell mentioned, we are here to ask for your approval for the annual renewal of the contract with Everbridge. That is the vendor that provides our emergency notification system. And what we're talking about there is what's traditionally called reverse 911. Mm-hmm. So that's, we use this system for that emergency mass notification system. For example, it was used actually on Tuesday evening to help locate a missing young individual in the Hampstead area. It was successful. We actually sent out 2 notifications for that. So it is used on a regular basis for emergency notifications, as well as we use it internally. So for example, we have coordination calls for the snow when the snow comes. That's the system that we're using to be able to facilitate those calls. So it has internal application as well as our emergency side of it. We were able to work through the budgetary process to get additional funding in this year's approved budget for an upgrade from the MN package, which stands for Mass Notification Package, to the MN Pro package. It provides us with additional operational simplification in some ways. It provides us with automated smart weather alerts. It also provides us with the ability to offer like keyword opt-ins. So when you go to, if for example, if you are going to the wine festival, and right now we don't have a way to say, hey, if you're interested in public safety or safety updates for the wine festival while you're here, text 12345. We don't have that capability with our current package. With this upgrade, we will have that capability. So, and the wine festival is just one example of an event we could possibly use that for. It also will provide us the opportunity to have expanded integration possibly with other systems. So possibly being able to use this to integrate with our computer-aided dispatch system. There's all sorts of different opportunities that this opens up to be able to have this upgraded package. So the funds for that renewal at the package rate of $49,570 are included in the approved operating budget for fiscal year 23. There is a one-time implementation fee, so that we were not really even aware of at the when we asked for the $49,000 in the budget. We were of $3,900, excuse me, $3,965.60 for that one-time implementation fee, so basically a setup fee. We were able to identify some grant funding in a project that came in under budget in the federal fiscal year 19 UASI grant. That's been identified, but that can cover that one-time implementation fee. So because of that, there's no additional funds that are necessary to complete the purchase. So our recommendation is approving the annual renewal of the contract, including the package, by authorizing the Director Campbell to execute that document and approve the payment of the bill in the amount of $53,535.60.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
Nope. Love the enhancements. That's
Yeah.
going to be a great new tool. So,
Yeah.
well done.
Thank you.
So I'll make the motion that we authorize the Director of Public Safety, whoever that is, to sign the annual renewal of the Everbridge contract, including the MN Pro package as proposed, to include approving the payment of the bill.
Of the bill of $53,535.60. Yeah. Okay. Just confusing me when I see two recommendations, but got it. Okay, got a motion, got a second.
I'm not really confused, but
Well, that's because you're one of those smart people from District 1.
exactly, District 1 again, I know.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Department of Homeland Security grant awards.
Now, Commissioners, we're going to ask you to accept some money and not spend it at this point. Not spend county money, that is. Every year, Commissioners, the various Department of Homeland Security grant funding streams or annual allocations, and as I'm sure you're aware, those allocations come with a multi-year performance period. So it's a little confusing in that you will get a grant allocation in a given year, and you have several years to use it. And Valerie and her staff develop spending plans for those monies. So every year we get another allocation with a multi-year performance period and a spending plan unique to that allocation. So it may be a little confusing when we come in, but the good news is you'll hear when Ms. Hawkins goes through what's proposed this year as far as our allocations. The change from previous years is minimal, and we get to do some wonderful things using those grant funds. So with that, I will also share that last year, I think, was the first year we asked you to look at these as a group instead of every single award separately to try to clean it up. So that's what we're doing again this year, specifically the Emergency Management Performance Grant, or EMPG, the Urban Area Security Initiative, or UASI, and the State Homeland Security Grant Program, or SHIZ. So it's the second page of what was provided to you is a table that has the different grant streams, the amount to be awarded, if there is a required match, the performance period, and it gives you examples of the proposed use. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Hawkins, and please invite you, if you have questions about the monies, how they're used, et cetera.
Well, since you're inviting us, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Hawkins.
Thank you. So the first one that is in our table that we'll talk about today is the Federal Fiscal Year 2022 Emergency Management Performance Grant. That award amount is $125,036.40. This is the only one that we'll talk about this morning that does have a required match. That is a 100% match, so we do have a match of $125,036.40. That match is met with previously budgeted radio system expenses. So there's no additional or new funding that's required to meet that match. And that's traditional. We've been doing that for the past several years. The performance period for this one, and this is not a typo when you look at it. I always try to point this out because the performance period for EMPG is a little odd. We don't get awarded it until a year after the performance period starts. So the performance period for EMPG for federal fiscal year 22 is October 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2024. It really doesn't make a difference in practice to us because we spend this particular grant within 1 year because it's mostly utilized for the salaries for the emergency management manager and assistant manager positions. So we complete our utilization of this funding within a year anyway. But I like to point out that that is not a typo. That's just the way the federal government does it for whatever reason. And I've never been able to find out the reason, even though I've asked many times.
Did we receive this last year as well? And this has been repetitive over time?
Yes. All three of these are not there. None of them are new.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it has something to do with the fiscal year federal government, but okay.
I just don't know why they back it up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'll tell you, at first, earlier on, I thought you said Mensch, so I thought you were speaking Yiddish or something, but that's okay.
No,
I was going to say thank you.
I was trying to speak too quickly. So
That's okay.
That's good. Combine a couple words. So as I mentioned, this one is utilized, proposed uses for salaries. And then also this year, there was a little bit of supplemental funding that came through to the state. So we'll be proposing to use that for some access and functional needs support equipment, and then also some EOC equipment. So I'll stop there. Any questions on EMPG? All right, we'll move on to the Federal Fiscal Year 2022 Urban Area Security Initiative grant. Carroll County is one of the 7 jurisdictions that comprise the Baltimore Urban Area Security Initiative region. By virtue of that, our award amount this year for UASI is $353,016.42. There is no required match for this one, none at all. The performance period for this one actually started on the 1st of September 2022 and extends to February 28th of 2025. This one, our proposed use is for planning staff salaries, so basically the other folks in our office. This grant is utilized to support them. Tactical support for law enforcement, communications and command vehicle support for both of those, hazardous materials, and special operations team support for the fire side. There is a 30% requirement for a requirement that 30% of this grant, as well as the State Homeland Security Grant Program that we'll talk about next, goes to law enforcement, terrorism prevention, and protection activities. So basically, there's a 30% set aside for supporting law enforcement. That is different from last year. Last year, it was 25% for both grants. This year, it's 30%.
And can these dollars be used for capital projects along with ongoing projects, or?
Yes, with very specific requirements. We don't normally use a lot of that type of this funding for that type of project simply because of it's not a lot of money to
Right,
begin with.
right.
But so for minor things from time to time, we can do that. But there is an extra procedure that we have to follow, at least one or two from the federal government, to be able to utilize utilize these funds in that manner. So technically they can be, but there's the number of hoops that we have to jump through to do that is a little bit problematic.
Right.
And it's normally not a lot of money, and we really try to focus on the staff that we need to write our plans and run our program more than those types of expenditures.
Which is an interesting question because our hazmat unit, our ATR unit, and our command post are starting to get some age on them. So it was a great thing when we were able to get them inside finally a couple years back. But at some point, we're going to have to start looking at replacement of that equipment. And unfortunately, I think they're all going to hit about the same time. So yeah, it's an interesting question that I don't. Well, you'll probably have to address it at some point in the next 4 years, but something's going to have to be looked upon as to how we can acquire again, because a lot of that was gotten through grant funding, etc. So hopefully that will be forthcoming because we're kind of getting outclassed with command vehicles. Ours is sort of antiquated. With all due respect to the fact that you guys have done an amazing job of trying to keep up with the technology on there, retrofitting and all that kind of stuff. It's still a valid vehicle for what we would need it for. But those three avenues of equipment and related expenses are going to have to be something that's on the radar if it's not already.
The vehicles, I'll specifically speak to the mobile command and communication vehicles. Those were purchased in 2005, both of them, with Urban Area Security Initiative funding. At that point in time, the amount of Urban Area Security Initiative funding coming to the region was probably, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, it's probably 10 times what comes to the region now. So I absolutely agree, and it is on our radar.
Good.
The challenge that we have is if we were to try to utilize some of this funding for that purpose, we would then have to identify funding for all of the other purposes that we are using.
Can we look at potential bond bills for this type of equipment? I mean,
it's always a possibility.
yeah. I mean, these are relatively big ticket items that a bond bill can cover. So
yeah, I'm not suggesting that they're at end of life yet,
No, but
they're rapidly approaching, including the decon unit.
Yeah.
The decon unit too has got some age on it,
yes.
Which is doesn't get used a lot, but when we use it, it's critically needed.
Well, exactly. When many of these items that we have that our agency maintains in our program, they're not things that get used every single day.
Right.
But when you need them, you absolutely need them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a trade-off and it's a balance.
Yeah, so just, let's further, look at this further, potentially working with the delegation, as a bond bill. So see where this goes. So, no, I appreciate that. Okay.
Any other questions on Urban Area Security Initiative? All right, and then the last one is the Federal Fiscal Year 22 State Homeland Security Grant Program, or normally it's abbreviated as SHIZ. The award amount for that one this year is $144,564. There is no match for that one. The performance period is the same as the UASI grant at September 1st of 2022 through February 28th of 2025. Our proposed use for this one is EOC support. We do a lot of EOC support with this particular one, also training and exercise. There's some interoperable communications funding that is available in this one this time. We have a preparedness education project proposed, and then also law enforcement support. That 30% is required for this one as well.
Okay. I'll move the Board of Commissioners accept the FFY 2022 Department of Homeland Security grant awards as presented.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Is there further discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you,
good work.
Commissioners.
Thank you. Okay. Let's bring up DPW. And graphics upgrade. Medisys? Maybe? Graphics upgrade. Morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Okay.
Is that pronounced Medisys?
Medisys, correct.
Sounds like Greek mythology.
Go ahead.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services and Bureau of Facilities, is requesting your approval to award the Medisys graphics upgrade to Johnson's Controls Incorporated in the amount of $49,980. The purchase is within the adopted budget and no additional funds should be necessary.
Morning, Commissioners. Medisys is the building automation system from Johnson Controls that facilities uses to monitor and maintain all the HVAC equipment across the county buildings. The currently installed version of Medisys has reached the end of its life and needs to be updated to the latest version, version 12, to continue to receive security patching. Apart from the cybersecurity issues surrounding it, Justin can talk about a lot of the upgrade of features that upgrade is going to bring for facilities.
You're doubting that he can't talk cybersecurity? Come on now.
Morning, Commissioner. So I want to thank Sixton and the IT team to support this project. It's going to help facilities tremendously. So the plan here is Johnson Controls and their contractors are going to come through the 26 buildings or 28 buildings, and they're going to do new floor plan layout, new designs. And what that's going to entail is equipment layout, so our technicians can troubleshoot remotely, troubleshoot quickly. They'll be able to see dial in per room, see exactly what that unit is doing at that time. We currently have 4 buildings on the old version of the graphics. With this upgrade, we're going to be converting every building over, including the college, to the new graphics program. The latest and greatest.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep. Sounds like a no-brainer. I move we approve the Metasis graphics upgrade to Johnson Controls, $49,980.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's talk about the Mount Airy Library Senior Center boilers. Thanks, Exon.
Thank you.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Facilities, requests your approval to award the replacement and installation of two boilers at the Mount Airy Library and Senior Center to Johnson Controls, a current term contractor, in the amount of $107,981. This amount is approved in the FY23 budget and no additional funds should be required.
So we're asking your approval to award Johnson Controls a contract to install 2 fully modulating high-efficiency RBI condensing boilers. Johnson Controls will be installing new PVC piping through the roof, new circulators, and all piping associated to make this a turnkey project. The new boilers will be tied into what you just heard about, the new Medisys system, which will in turn lead us to run these boilers more efficient depending on outside air. We can modulate the temperatures of the water to bring more energy savings back to the county. The current boilers are 30 plus years old, original to the building, so they're at the end of their lifespan. So with these upgrades, it's definitely going to save the county in energy funds.
Mr. McDonald, if I may, I want to thank you and Deputy Director Green for giving me a tour of that facility and keep me abreast of what's going on. It's very much appreciated. Therefore, I'd like to move that the Board of Commissioners approve the award to replace 2 boilers at Mount Airy Library and Senior Center to Johnson Controls in an amount of $107,981.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second. You said they're about 30 years old, so when Commissioner Weaver was about 50, 55 is when
they were
installed? Okay.
Rodney Dangerfield.
These are, I take it this was competitively bid.
Through Johnson Controls, their contract.
I mean, really.
And what I really like is that the amount approved is within our budget. What, 55, 50? Well, you know.
Gotta have a comeback.
Okay.
30s.
That's about as old as your socks. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's talk about, okay, the Saturday services pilot program with the Carroll Transit. Ladies, good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Bokey, you got their back, right? Okay.
From the back.
You think I need assistance? You guys not have faith in me?
I have 100% faith.
I have all the faith. This is why.
That was from the cheap seats. What'd you say? No, I'm kidding.
All right, good morning, commissioners. I am here this morning with Crystal Weinbrenner, the executive director of Ride With Us. We're going to talk to you about 3 different transit items. But before we get started, I want to just give you an update on ridership because I like to do that when we are in front of you. So we're slowly regaining since the pandemic. The Trailblazer is almost back to pre-pandemic numbers, so that's super exciting. We're almost there. Demand response still has a way to go. I don't know that it'll get back to where it was, but it's still going up, so we're in the right direction.
I apologize. Go back just a one. I just want to finish seeing this. That's great. Is it a lot of advertisement that got us there, or just the need? I mean,
I think I'm going to say just the need. We don't advertise a ton. We should do more, but I think our Trailblazer kind of blue bus. You see it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think word of mouth is working well for that.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Item number 1, Saturday pilot program. We were in front of you at the end of June, and you approved us to move forward with the pilot starting August 6th and running to October 29th, which is Saturday. We presented the pilot with a goal of learning the need for Saturday transit here in the county. The pilot was advertised for the whole month of July, along with on the buses during the pilot time frame. And while we did have ridership, we don't believe it's enough to continue Saturday services. Here are the numbers by week. As you can see, the first 2 weeks were really the best ones as far as people using the system and trips, but it kind of trails off after that for an average of 7 trips per Saturday over the time frame. The October 29th numbers are what is currently scheduled. That can change depending on what people call for the next couple days or cancel or whatever. So I didn't include that in my average of 7 because we don't know what that'll be. When we were here in June, we told you that we would consider the pilot successful if it was in line with the weekday service of the same time period. Well, that was not the case either. So we average about 12 passenger trips per day per bus, and about 200 total per day on demand response during the week. And while the average passenger trip difference is big, I believe the more important data point is the difference between cost per passenger. The cost to the county for Saturday was $34.43 per passenger trip, and that's $10 more per passenger trip for the Saturday service than it is during the week. In the interest of being responsible with our funding, we don't believe that Saturday service should continue. Since your motion in June was specific with the dates of the pilot, we don't believe that we need another motion to stop the pilot. So just a discussion and your questions on that, and if you disagree, then we would need a motion to keep going.
I think the
And the
pilot
funding.
program,
The funding.
The funding,
Right.
yeah.
And the money.
the pilot program did exactly what we're looking for, to get a snapshot of what was needed. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have the data now to, some people say we need Saturday service, say, well, apparently not.
Right. And this isn't
Right.
saying absolutely never to Saturday
Right.
service.
Right.
It's just saying that right now the makeup just doesn't need it.
Right.
You know, we'll probably revisit it in 3-5 years, give or take, and just see, you know, what that request looks like then. But right now, it's just not a service that's needed.
I do believe it warrants a motion because there's resources involved. So
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we discontinue the pilot program along with its funding. You know that's
On the
Or is this-
29th.
what's that?
On the 29th.
Right. After Saturday.
Yeah, after October 29th. Yes.
Second.
Awesome.
Okay, I got a motion. I got a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Just continuing the Trailblazer South Carroll routes.
All right. So, South Carroll Trailblazer route. We are here to recommend that the South Carroll route be discontinued as of January 1st and to get your approval to hold a public hearing. The South Carroll route has always been the most underused route. We have had the South Carroll commuter route suspended since April of 21. We had come to you around that time and asked to suspend that and our second purple route. And we have had a minimal amount of people ask for that, under 5 in the last year and a half, to start that back up. So we have not reopened it. The South Carroll route itself has been changed over the years to make it more user-friendly and have a quicker loop time, like we have done with all the other routes. And those have increased ridership. This one has not. So as you can see, since COVID, the ridership has averaged just under 7 trips per day, and that is less than 1 trip per loop, as the route itself makes 17 loops a day. And I know that doesn't mean a lot without comparison to the other routes. So the best performing route is our Westminster Black route, which averages almost 21 trips per day and an average cost per trip of less than $20. When you compare that to the South Carroll route, which for the first quarter, which is what these numbers are from, of 23, averages 5 trips per day with a cost of $63 per trip. Keeping this route open is not the best use of our funds. Instead, the driver from this Trailblazer route would be moved to a demand response bus in South Carroll. We right now have a pretty high denial rate in South Carroll because we don't have the capacity. So by opening another demand response bus down there, we would actually be serving more people in that community than the Trailblazer is currently serving. Since this is a reduction in service, the motion we're requesting is to hold a public hearing because that's required by our grant funding. And I've scheduled it with Wanda already for your last session, so you guys will still be involved in making the decision on the 1st of December. I know, you're so excited. Yay, more transit.
Thank you.
And then we'll move on to your final decision as far as the discontinuance of the route.
Okay.
Questions on this one?
The demand response, since we're adding the driver to that, if this goes through like that, and I know, I hope I know the answer, but when people call for that, we say, well, you know, there's a Trailblazer that goes by your area too. Is it possible for you to use that? But they have no interest in doing that?
We have far more people that live in that area that are not on the route. It's just, Eldersburg is just such a large area.
It's not close to the route.
They're not
okay.
close, no.
But if they are, yes, we do recommend
Right,
they
and
use
I
that.
know we do.
Yeah.
But I'm just, gosh.
Right, and if they're staying in South Carroll, instead of the $2 Trailblazer, it's $4 demand response, and they can get that on their schedule as opposed to
Right.
meeting the Trailblazer schedule. And I think down there, that's what most people are preferring.
Is the staging area at the senior center?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's too large of an area that the request would be coming off the routes, the existing routes. So, okay, I'll move the Board of Commissioners direct staff to advertise for the public hearing of the proposed route change.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's move on to the Carroll Transit System Safety Management Plan.
All right, man, we are on a roll here, guys. This is going super quick. All right.
You really want to say that now?
I know. I have faith in this one, though. I have faith in this one to not be the hardest of the day for sure. This is our annual update to our transit safety plan. The safety plan is an FTA requirement that must be reviewed annually and submitted by the Maryland Transit Association by December 1st. So there are only a few small changes that we've made to our plan this year. The main change being a new FTA requirement for small systems to create our safety plan in conjunction with our frontline employees. So starting January of 23, CTS will be holding quarterly safety meetings with the employees, and we will cover all safety related items, whether that's near misses, thank you. Near misses or accidents, hopefully we don't have any to discuss. And the safety plan, if there's anything the drivers or the dispatchers see that maybe we should change a little bit in the safety plan so that we can discuss it with everybody and everybody's on the same page. The other change to the safety plan is our performance targets. They're basically the same as last year. The only real change is the difference in mileage because our miles have went up because our ridership has went up. So we're keeping the fatalities at 0. We're always going to keep them at 0. We're never going to change that, hopefully, right? Knock on wood. Injuries stayed at 1, safety events stayed at 5 and 3 respectively for demand response and fixed routes. So it's just that per 100,000 vehicle revenue mile that changes based on the miles from the previous year. And then one other very small change is a change of director for signature. So I get to officially change to our new director, Director Boki, and have him sign this when this is approved.
Oh, that last thing now.
I know.
I don't know. I think that's my favorite part.
You had me until then.
I know. I'm not sure about that last. So,
Does the safety management plan help give us a discount on any of our insurance liability? Does it affect that in any way?
No, it does not.
Too bad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we use Legit anyway, so I think we have a pretty good price on
All right.
our
I also
insurance on
want-
the buses.
Sometimes when you have a program like this, you can get some sort of discount. I was wondering if there was a financial benefit to it.
Yeah, we just are required to do it for FTA.
Thank you.
And I mean, I think it's a great requirement, just that's where it came from.
Crystal, anything to say? I mean, strong silent
I'm
type.
very sorry.
You got her all wound
No.
up.
No, she went right through all of it, so I have nothing to add.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make the motion. The Board of Commissioners approve the updated Carroll Transit System Safety Management Plan.
Second.
I got a motion. I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hit the easy button on that. Okay, Hoods Mill Road Well Drilling and Testing Services Project. Andy, man, that was a bit forceful. Saying, get away. It's our turn.
There's a lot of energy to compete with.
There was a lot of energy there, wasn't there?
was. I think Andy and I can top that, can't we?
Just breathe out.
No comment.
Okay.
Commissioners, we're here to request your approval to award a contract to Easterday Wilson Well Drilling LLC in the amount of $83,733 for the Hoods Mill Well Drilling and Testing Services Project. The Office of Procurement advertised a solicitation and received one proposal which was evaluated. This amount is within the adopted budget. No additional funds will be necessary.
Gentlemen, Cabot Court currently has 3 commercial users and is presently served by a 10,000-gallon water storage tank that was installed as per an agreement that dates back to 1992. Potable water is presently hauled to Cabot Court storage tank on a scheduled basis via tanker from the Linton Bulk Water Facility. The existing water storage tank is nearing the end of its useful service life and is in need of replacement at this time. Please recall that the county purchased 2 parcels of land from the state highway, one on each side of Hoods Mill Road and adjacent to Cabot Court not so long ago. One of the potential purposes of that land purchase was to utilize the north parcel as a potential groundwater well site for the Cabot Court commercial users. As the water options for Cabot Court were explored in more detail, the Maryland Department of the Environment, with their oversight and authority with regards to this type of water supply, advised the county that the continued long-term hauling of water to Cabot Court from Linton would not be acceptable and that a permanent direct supply solution would be required. In view of that direction, this project is for the well drilling and testing services for the North Hoods Mill Road parcel. The scope of work includes the drilling of up to 4 6-inch diameter wells, test wells, and the transition of the best yielding well to a full production 8-inch diameter well. Any questions for me?
Aren't we spending like tens of thousands of dollars annually to service them with water?
We spend approximately $12,000 a year to haul water to Cabot Court.
So this would alleviate that cost long term?
It would long term.
Right.
This is to drill test wells.
It'll-
And if they're fruitful, when do they become real well?
Yes, that's the question right now. This process is to establish whether or not we have a viable source of groundwater that can be used for well. If there is another large expense that we will have to explore with the next board if we take that route and use that well source as a supply for Cabot Court.
Okay. So basically, once they do hit a water source, then you're talking about the infrastructure transporting it from the well to the facilities.
That's correct. It'll be a well pumping operation, a water treatment operation, and a new water storage.
Is there any potential idea what the overall cost would be in the end of this?
It's estimated that will be approximately $1.5 million.
Well, I move the Board of Commissioners award a contract for the Hoods Mill Road Well Drilling and Testing Services Project, the Easter Day Wilson Well Drilling LLC, in the amount of $83,733.
Second.
Okay, let's have a little bit of discussion on this.
That's not working too well for me. So we're spending $12,000 a year to get 3 facilities water.
That's correct.
Y'all want to dig a well or a test well to see if we can put a well in. That would require us to spend about $1.5 million.
That's
To
correct.
get water to these 3 facilities.
That's correct.
We can do a lot of hauling for $12,000 over the next years before we get to $1.5 million.
You're absolutely correct. However, please keep in mind that the Maryland Department of the Environment has advised us that long-term, we cannot haul water in per their guidance and restrictions.
So what happens if we don't hit anything down there? Then what does the MDE
Well, that's gonna,
wizards have to say?
that's a very good question.
Yeah, it always is with MDE.
Well, just to stay in the same, thought is, it's advisement, or is it, direction, law? I mean, there's whole different levels of, because we can be out of their advisement. I mean, if what's best for our community, but 12,000 a year, we can wait 10 years, look at this again and say, okay, now let's take another look at this, or 20 years, and we're still only spending, a $250,000 compared to 1.5 million.
So the background for this is MDE has established the Cabot Court system as a water service, as a designated water service system, and that falls under certain guidelines and restrictions and laws. I would assume that MDE has oversight for. So with that in place, they have made it very clear to us that on a long-term basis, water hauling is not an acceptable permanent solution. What that time parameter is, I'm not certain of. We have to have a plan to work towards, I would think. But there's no firm time plan in place at this point in time.
I think getting long-term service defined is important. Does long-term service mean 10 years, 5 years, 20 years? Because if they are expecting something to be put in place, I mean, long-term service could be 20 years, and then in 15 years, take a look at moving forward with this. But this is a lot of money.
Still nowhere near that.
At 1.5 million.
Which the 1.5 is going to keep going up, as will the 12,000. I get that. It's all relative. But I'm as a good steward of taxpayer dollars, I'm not sure I'm getting this.
But this is only to drill pilot wells, basically, to find out if there's water sources available there. So the next part about the pumping station, all that is going to be required, we're not doing that right now.
Well, then why do the well?
Because my guess is Maryland Department of Environment says you have to have a vision or a plan to do the long terms. We don't have to have it right now, but we don't have to have the well right now working. But I think we have to have a way to make long-term service available. So I think this is like the step, and maybe you can hold off 10 years or so after this step. I don't know, but having this in place from what I'm gathering.
I'm sorry. If I may, I have a suggestion. Possibly, maybe one of our elected officials speak with the Secretary of the Department of Environment about this, and see where what long-term means, and because there is significant dollars in here, and it's not a project that the county can just take on willy-nilly without significant planning. So I think maybe more higher level conversations could be beneficial rather than lower level staff members who are the ones who
that's fine.
sent us
and we can do that.
information.
We can craft definitely a letter to the secretary. He changed out recently.
I
So
can't
I don't know
remember who
who's
it
the
is
acting
now, 'cause it's-
secretary.
yeah.
I don't know who acting is, but that's going to be temporary as well
Yeah,
because
exactly.
because
So we're going to wait till
you're
after
going to have to wait
January.
till after January. But
Which is fine.
I see your point.
Yeah.
I do, but I can't even go with spending $85,000 to do a test well for 4 or 3 or whatever they are, however many,
Yeah,
with
I
no
agree.
anticipation of moving forward,
Right.
because that's going to be a $2 million project until we get to it, and to serve 3.
That's correct. A possibility of more, but 3 current right now.
My concern, if we go forward with this and testing, and I do understand this, is they're going to say, oh, well, you've already done this. Now let's just spend the rest of the money to do X. And I don't want to spend $1.5 million to do X, if not necessary. It doesn't sound like it's broke right now. It sounds like they're getting the support they need.
But you did say that the tank is at the end of its.
Please keep in mind that the storage tank itself is at the end of its useful life.
That's problematic, but I'm pretty sure we could probably put a tank in for less than $1.5 million.
It'll be $200,000 to $300,000.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, these are all topics that we discussed internally. We struggled with in our discussions with MDE, and because the existing water tank system there is looked at as clearly based on the letter that we got from them as a temporary fix. It's been in place for many years. So again, at the point of it being us having to replace it has triggered this.
Right.
Look at a long-term solution to it versus replacing with another tank. And again, it's been a temporary type system that MDE approved back when the initial agreement was put in place. So we're just trying to work through those.
No, I understand,
Yeah,
but
I
that
get that
tank
too, Jason, but
that tank could be temporary for 50 years. Yeah. I don't like this.
I know there's a motion on, but
There's a motion and a second.
forward with that, but yeah, we could. That's right. If you want to leave the motion where it is, see where it goes. But I see, and I applaud staff for that forward-minding thinking. It's a great way to do it. But you also got to keep in mind that MDE secretaries come and go about like water flows. So the new one could come in and say, "Nah, y'all good." I mean, unless there's some sort of parameters, with the exception of the tank, I get that. That would require us to continue this. It just,
And also,
I can't do that.
Right.
When I'm looking at taxpayer dollars, I just can't right now.
Understood.
So that's just me, though.
The guidance given to us was not a long-term solution. So there's a lot of weight hinging on what those words will actually mean.
And the likelihood of a new administration having more likelihood of subsidizing efforts is, a stronger potential. We'll leave it kind of like that. There's potential for that. I don't think we need to rush into this. I think it's there's still homework to be done in defining both qualitative and quantitative timelines and things of that nature. And I'd be more than happy to take that on. So,
if I may add, if you're finished, if I may add, is it my understanding that Modern Foundations, which is one of the businesses in that area, is consuming more water than we're supplying them?
No, they are capped at a certain number of gallons per day. There's occasional days where they exceed that amount, but it's not.
I mean, are they
problematic.
trucking in additional water?
They are trucking in their own water as
The
well.
amount of water we're supplying is not meeting their business demand.
That's correct.
Right. Additionally, I'm wondering on the revenue side, once a system would be put in place, what would be some of the revenue we could receive in? Because I don't think we talked about any revenue. I'm sure it's not that big, but it has to be something that offsets the cost.
The delicate matter is going to be until the amount of water is known that can be pulled out of the ground. We can't really
There's variables.
project what we can or can't do out there.
I appreciate all thought you all put into this, because that is my district and there's businesses down there. I'd hate to see a business like that relocate because we don't meet their water needs, and that's always a potential. I'd hate to see that happen.
One additional item to keep in mind about this project is, or the possible long-term project, is the south parcel, the South Hoods Mill Road parcel, which is in the southeast quadrant of the intersection of Cabic and Hoods Mill Road. That was the intended site for the new water storage tank. So the complicated part here is we do not really want to put a new replacement tank at the site of the current tank. It's better for us to have it at the new parcel, but if we put it at the new parcel, we would have to install service lines to get the water to the consumers.
Right.
So it's a very complicated matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Is that tank above or below ground?
It's above ground. It's not a very large tank when you visually see it, but it is above ground. It's about 12 feet high.
Okay.
Okay. Really appreciate this conversation, and again, doing our due diligence, like Commissioner Wentz shared, for our taxpayers and moving forward appropriately. I do have a motion and a second on the table. There was a lot of discussion. All those in favor with the motion and going forward with this action, say aye.
Aye.
Those against,
No.
say no. No. Okay, the motion does not carry 3-2. Okay. Let's talk about engineering evaluation and condition assessment of the Shiloh pumping station. Okay.
Commissioners, we're here to request your approval to award a contract to Johnson, Miramar, and Thompson in the amount of $49,712.50 for the engineering evaluation and condition assessment of the Shiloh pumping station. JMT is one of our approved current term contractors. This amount is within the adopted budget, and no additional funds will be necessary.
Gentlemen, with the recent completion of the new North Pump Station in Hampstead, our Bureau's focus is now directed to both the Shiloh Pump Station in Hampstead, as well as the Sykesville Pump Station in the Freedom District. And I will be appearing before this board or the next in the near future with respect to the Sykesville Pump Station. However, as Kerry said, this item presently is for the evaluation and condition assessment of the Shiloh Pump Station. As much as 70% of Hampstead's wastewater flows through the Shiloh Pump Station. It's a critically important facility that is currently becoming more and more aged and requires upgrade. This evaluation will focus on the operational assessment of the pump station's pumping system and mechanical, electrical, structural, and capacity conditions for both current as well as future needs. The results of this evaluation will be the basis of the renovation and upgrade construction drawings for the facility. The Bureau has used this consultant, JMT, on several previous projects with very good results, and the completion time of this evaluation is within 5 months of the award of contract.
How old is that station?
This pump station is approximately 30 years or so old. Wow. It has much of the original components to it. The two main issues that we are dealing with is the size of the wet well and the pumping ability of the pumps that are currently in place. The complicated part in conjunction with that is the size of the force main diameter pipe leaving the pump station. It may not be a simple matter of just upgrading the size of the pumps. There may not be enough space in the outgoing pipe to physically push as much wastewater out that we would like to have done. So that this evaluation is a critically important part of the overall rehab process.
Okay.
What's on the horizon for replacing this? Are you looking at it?
We're trying to not replace it. We're trying to simply rehabilitate it.
Okay.
That'll save an incredible amount of money for us.
You feel that is sufficient enough instead of replacement?
That's what this study.
That's what these guys are going to tell us. Okay.
We're somewhat confident that it can be upgraded and rehabilitated.
Okay.
There may be a long-term bypass operation in place while that's taking place, but it seems to be possible.
That's a lot too, because, you know.
Haven't we replaced a lot of parts in this lately, last couple of years?
As things break, I'm sure that staff has, but the overall pump station itself is aged, and again the size of the well, which is the storage component for the wastewater flow coming in, is rather small. It may need to be expanded outside of the current footprint of the building. So that's all part of the critical need for the evaluation.
JMT does the study. Do they also do the work?
We may have to bid it, but
Okay.
we would like to have the same firm
Yeah.
do both.
Yeah. Okay.
Dan, where were we, Roberta, were you along with me when we toured the new wastewater treatment plant in St. Michael's, I believe? Was it St. Michael's or?
I was not with you on that, no.
Okay. I don't know why I was.
Detroit. I just did a Frederick County water treatment plant with the county administrators.
Yeah, that was a Talbot County thing with the president of MACO.
You were
that I-
with,
Might have been
you
a
were with
Mako.
Mako.
During your Mako
Yeah,
board
that's
retreat.
what it was. Yeah, and that's why I'm asking the question, because the extent of what they had to go to put in the new one, and they talked about the fact that it was decided upon that the new one, it was much more beneficial to do that than to revamp the old one. Of course, there are a lot of different circumstances down there because, you know, the water table's like
Certainly.
right there. But that's what they did, and seeing that new technology, you know, the infrastructure that was required is interesting too. So we'll see what these guys say, and we won't have a say in it, but you will. But you know, I hope you can retrofit, because I remember what the price tag was on that too.
We are very hopeful. It will save us a very large amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what our game plan is for this, as well as for the Sykesville pump station, as I bring that up in future sessions.
Will the town participate in any of the costs?
The town will not. The county is fully responsible for the wastewater collection and treatment system.
What if we ask nicely? No, I'm kidding.
The
I
answer
move
will
that
probably
the
be
Board of
no.
Commissioners award a contract for the engineering evaluation and condition assessment of the Shiloh Pumping Station to JMT in the amount of $49,712.50.
Second.
I got a motion second. Any further discussion?
How long does it take for these guys to do this assessment?
This will be a five-month maximum project. It'll likely be done quicker than that.
Cool, thanks.
Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's talk about purchase of various water meter parts for the Walkabout Court water meter vault project.
Commissioners, we're here to request your approval to award a contract to Core and Main in the amount of $25,114.49 for the purchase of various water meter parts for the Walkabout Court water meter vault project. The Office of Procurement with the Bureau of Utilities solicited quotes from 3 vendors. Core and Main provided the lowest bid. The amount is within the adopted budget and no additional funds will be necessary.
And gentlemen, I did not give proper direction to the scheduling office for this. It would have made more sense if I did the next item first prior to this, but we'll go in the order that it's listed. So this is for the purchase of water meter parts for the Walkabout Court meter vaults. The meter vaults will be discussed as part of the next item, obviously. The installation of these parts by the contractor will allow Bureau staff to then install the current model iPearl water meters within the new meter vaults. The parts being purchased include meter yoke bars, angle valves, back L connections, and meter expansion nuts. Any questions for me?
So this is just for the parts?
Just for the parts.
Because I didn't recognize Core and Main. That's why I'm like, are they new? So, yeah, so.
So what happens on the meter vault installation? These residential houses have the indoor meters. So we have a service lateral line coming from the water main to the house. So we install a water main over top of the service lateral. that lateral is cut and is angled up into, both ends are angled up. So these parts are what is used to connect the new water meter inside of that meter vault. So temporarily, a jumper line is installed to allow the house to still have water service until staff comes in there with the new meter
Okay.
installation.
Makes sense.
So first, we're gonna purchase the parts, and then we're gonna install them.
Correct.
Right? So let's move the Board of Commissioners award a contract to purchase various water meter installation parts for use of the Walkabout Court water meter replacement project to Core and Main in the amount of $25,114.49.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now let's talk about the installation of these parts.
Commissioners, we're here to request your approval to award the contract to Mid-Atlantic Utilities Incorporated in the amount of $74,400 for the installation of residential water meter vaults on Walkabout Court. Bids were solicited from 4 contractors, and we received 2 responses. Mid-Atlantic provided the lowest bid and are an approved current term contractor. This amount is within the adopted budget, and no additional funds will be necessary.
So, gentlemen, just to expand briefly on what I talked about in the previous item, this is the latest project with regards to the continuing system-wide upgrade from indoor water meters to the current standard outdoor vaults and water meters. This project focuses on Walkabout Court, which is a 48-unit townhouse community located off of Lee Lane behind the Freedom Village Shopping Center in the Freedom District. For background, to a date, 7,524 of the 8,230 Freedom District residential accounts have been upgraded to outdoor vaults and meters. With this project, the completed total will increase to 7,572 accounts, and we have a balance of 658 units left. And we expect to finish the entire upgrade process over the next several fiscal years. The average unit cost of $1,550 is consistent with other recent water meter vault projects, and we also have a very good history of work experience with this contractor, Mid-Atlantic Utilities, and I fully expect that work to continue with this project.
I'll move the Board of Commissioners award a contract for installation of water meter vaults on Walkabout Court within the Freedom District service area to Mid-Atlantic Utilities in the amount of $74,400.00.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
I was hoping we could finish them before I was done my term, but I guess not.
We're not going to make it.
Very disappointing.
You were really relying on that too, weren't you?
Those water vaults, I wanted them done.
You could stay on, you know.
Could I?
Replacement of water service laterals and Dale Drive.
Commissioners, this approval would be to award a contract to HTI Contractors in the amount of $92,850 for the replacement of water service laterals on Dale Drive. Bids were solicited from 4 contractors, and 2 responses were received. HTI provided lowest bid and are an approved term contractor. The amount is within the adopted budget, and no additional funds will be necessary.
So this item is a continuation of our ongoing replacement of aging water service laterals. As per previous briefings, water service laterals are the lines that connect the water mains to the properties. And in this instance, each of these service laterals, the county responsibility ends at the water meter vault itself. So the section of line from the meter vault to the property is privately owned and maintained. The laterals are typically 3/4 or 1 inch diameter copper, and as they age, they are prone to pinhole leaks. The scope of work only includes the county-owned portion of that lateral. This item is for 30 water service laterals, all on Dale Drive, which is located off of Johnsville Road in the Freedom District. These water service laterals date to the 1970s, and as I've explained previously, the basic approach to our construction is to use the old service line as the pulling mechanism to attach the new line to it and pull the new line through the ground. They occasionally break and snap, and in that case, we will have to open cut the trench, but we've had very good fortune with these recently. The average cost for this work is $3,095 per residential unit, and it is consistent with bids received for previous projects, and the pricing is a fair value for the scope of work. And once again, we have a very good history of work and results with this contractor, which is HTI, based out of.
I think HTI and Mid-Atlantic talk back and forth to each other and say, okay, I'm gonna go 12,000 here and 7,000 there. So
The prices are very, very competitive typically.
Yeah.
There's an occasional blip where one is way below the other, but
Right.
we've been very, very fortunate with our bids.
yep. And just advice: pull carefully so we don't break anything underneath the ground.
Exactly.
So
Do we ever talk to homeowners and say, we're about to do this with your house? Perhaps you like to do your part as well at the same time, so it'd be cheaper for both?
The direction that we give our contractor and my bureau staff is we like to keep the work separate. They can do the work after the county portion is complete, but the complication is if they start doing private lines as part of, while they're doing the county project, the liability gets kind of gray and muddled and cloudy. So we try and keep that separated.
What happens if the private line breaks while we're doing our part?
It's not going to happen. I mean, it won't happen. They're two
Separated.
separate lines in the
Okay.
meter vault, so we're only pulling that one line.
All right.
We have had a couple of minor leaks that occur on the private line, but they've been fixed pretty readily.
All right, thank you.
And you definitely don't want to muddy your water.
Oh, my God.
I'll move the board
I won't
award
miss
a
that.
contract for the replacement of water services laterals on Dale Drive in the Freedom District to HTI Contractors in the amount of $92,850.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
To let you know, Chris and I did coordinate our attire for today's open session, so
You guys had a memo,
Okay.
right?
I was first, so
You were first. Okay. I would say a hot mess, but let's talk about a hot mix,
We hope it's warm.
It's a hot mess.
which can be a hot mess. 2022 hot mix asphalt paving.
You're here to request your approval to award a contract to Gray and Sons in the amount of $5,603,221.62 for the 2022 hot mix asphalt paving. The Office of Procurement advertised the solicitation on September 7th and received bids from Gray and Sons, C.J. Miller, and M.T. Laney. Gray and Son was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder and was pre-qualified. The work consists of paving approximately 6.3 miles on 16 county roadways. This amount is within the adopted budget and no additional funds will be necessary.
Thank you. This is our other pavement preservation contract for FY22. This project includes 16 roadways, which are listed in your briefing paper for a total of 16.3 miles. The work will repair and preserve our aging infrastructure to include full-depth reclamation, milling of pavement, placement of hot mix base and asphalt surface courses, adjusting and rebuilding of inlets, shoulder backup, maintenance of traffic, and the other incidental items that go along with that work. The project includes 100 working days, and Gray & Sons has completed similar work for us in the past. They have our other pavement management contract this year. Are there any questions?
When will this be completed?
It'll probably start when the weather breaks in the spring.
That's what I thought. Okay.
If we had, they still have the other work from the other contract to get finished up before we start something new. So if we have a really good fall, early winter, we might be able to get some of this done.
Window's closing in
It's
fast.
closing quickly.
Okay. I move the Board of Commissioners award the contract of 2022 hot mix asphalt paving to Gray and Son Incorporated in the amount of $5,603,221.62.
It's a lot in District 1.
I'll second that motion. Key to me is one, the competitive bids, and then also, again, for the community to understand, these very large ticket items are within the budget that was established by the Board of Commissioners with input last year for FY23, which started July 1st, because that's why that term, this amount is within the adopted budget and no additional funds will be necessary. There are no surprises to us here on the board or anybody in the staff, as this was already established. So, this is large.
So the surprises are going to come when those that live along the roads are asking, why are you doing something to my road that doesn't need to be done?
Right.
That's where the surprises come in. So, you've heard me say this for 8 years now. I continue to say that that's a lot of money. I'm looking at cross-section, and I just went across there, and I'm like, really? So, Doug, you've brought me down from the orbit that I've been on several times, but you're going to get the questions from the folks that say, here you go again, and it's fine. And I hope the explanation to them is why. I try to do it as best I can. I've referred several to you. I've referred some to you too, Chris, to explain why we do this, because to the layman, it appears as if we're just repaving what we just paved after we repaved it, after we paved it.
Yeah, if we wait till when it looks like it's really bad and we really need to do something, it's too late. The cost of that is almost double what it would cost just to do a simple mill and fill. We do have an asset management program, which all our roadways are evaluated every other year, so we have a plan in place. We are actually behind. Because of the price of asphalt, we pulled about $2 million worth of work out of this project and have to push to the next year. That will increase that cost to repair those roadways and keep them to where we need to do. We have the right treatment at the right time for the right roadway.
There's the key right there.
So the treatment for each roadway is different. And it may be, we have roads this year that one section is getting one treatment, another section is getting another treatment because that was the right treatment for the right roadway. So we spend a lot of time and effort to try and make sure we stretch the dollar as far as we can stretch it.
Right. Right. Okay.
It's an education process,
Yes.
and social media doesn't help when there's groupthink about things like this, and they're saying, why are we doing this? And it's an education process, you know.
And you're looking at the money, but petroleum is going up.
Well, yeah.
Pulling products, asphalt is crazy.
I'm not even looking at the pricing. I'm looking at the disruption. When people feel like their community's doing fine, their roads are fine, and then all of a sudden we're doing something. But like you said, you know, we're not doing this with a sledgehammer. We're doing it with a scalpel, and we're figuring out what's the best approach for any given time. So,
Yeah.
that's the. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, no.
No, please.
If we, to that point, if we let the road go to where it really looks bad and we have to reclaim it,
Right.
that process may take an additional week or two of inconvenience to the homeowners, as opposed to simple mill one day and fill and pave the next day.
I appreciate it. So, okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Inflection.
open admin. Do we have, Chris, do we have anybody on the phone?
No one on the line, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anything for open admin?
Yes. I'd like to state that as someone with a passion for political science, I need to give a public awareness statement to counter a false statement made by a board colleague earlier and repeatedly over the last 4 years. And that is the official definition of politics, which is the set of activities that are associated with making decisions in groups or other forms of power relations amongst individuals, such as the distribution of resources or status. And I'll preface this that this is exactly what the vote on delegation of authority was and is. We as politically elected officials swim in politics. It is the art of making policy. So when we made the vote on the delegation of authority, that was a political decision, and it is politics. That is the trade we swim in. Thank you.
Okay, has anybody got any comments? Okay. Come on up, Wanda. I'm not. Agendas, week number 1. Halloween, happy Halloween all. We have nothing scheduled. Tuesday, November 1st, we have an open session starting in the morning at 9, and it'll be the Ag Conservation Text, facilitated by Linda Eisenberg.
Depending you not showing up.
There's a Woodsboro Bank Fall Gathering Mixer. Commissioner Boucher will be attending.
If I may, I just checked the schedule. It is actually the 2nd of November, not the 1st. I must have had a typo on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. On Thursday,
There was a second. It's a national holiday.
Oh my gosh.
National holiday.
I wonder what day that is.
stop that.
What?
Okay. It is Commissioner Wance's 75th birthday on November 2nd. On Thursday, November 3rd,
Sorry, what was the
we
number
have
again?
open session, catching up
70?
to one over here. We have open session at 9 a.m. Yeah, I'll make a special cupcake for you. Operation Green Light. This is actually something that's
right.
not political, but something very important to me, and that is across the country we are recognizing the military and the military community through Operation Green Light, and there'll be a proclamation provided, and also the county building will be lit up in green, along with the State House and others across the country. So I'm
The following week, yeah.
pretty proud of that.
Is
Yeah,
that something new?
it is.
Okay, that's
And
cool.
it is.
Yeah.
I
We
think it's
received the
pretty
green light
special.
bulbs because I heard someone
So-
was supposed to send them to us.
So there is now a new tool that's put in place on how these buildings are going to be lit up here,
Okay.
which will allow for the coloring to occur. Thank you, Mr. Swam. So, yeah.
That's what the group. Oh.
That's why it's green in his office.
Oh,
So, yeah, I'm pretty
that's really neat.
staying away from any politics associated with green lights. Let's see. Veteran Services staff. What day is that? That's next week. Okay. Then we got Financial Assurance Plan, Employment Campus Solar Text Amendment, Industrial 1 C2 Districts Text Amendment. Almost getting into my Army speak. Adoption, Comprehensive Rezoning, Agricultural Conservation Zoning. Rezoning Case 227 to MJY Investments. Text Amendment Plan Commercial Centers. Laserfish Annual Support Renewal. Excella Land Management System Annual Maintenance and Support Renewal. Approval to submit fiscal year 23 cardiac devices grant application. Mr. Robinson will be speaking for that. Adoption of Chapter 37 Fire EMS. It's a long time coming. Very proud of all the work's been done through ESEC, community, and everyone else involved. So Mr. Robinson will facilitate us through that. Ruling Associates Charles Carroll Community Center. I asked before, what is this? It's not a change order. What is
No,
this?
it's not a change order. It's
It's something to do with
Is
engineering.
it
isn't it, Brian?
security? The
Charles
Ruling
Carroll.
Associates?
Is the Ruling and Associates? Isn't that an engineering firm or something?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't.
I feel like it's security, but I'm not sure. Okay.
Be,
Oh,
Eric might know.
Eric, do you know what the Ruling Associates over at Charles Carroll? What is that?
What service are they going to
They're
provide?
providing testing and inspection services.
Providing. I'm sorry.
Testing and inspection services.
Okay.
Testing and inspection services.
Testing and inspection. Okay, thanks. Selection of consultant team to conduct the Northern Landfill Master Plan. Mr. Engel will be presenting. First quarter fiscal year 23 update, fourth quarter of fiscal year results. Mr. Zaleski and Deb will be presenting. At 1:30, we reconvene into open session, and it'll be Department of Public Works, the water audit. 6:30, Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area Year in Review over at Antrim. Commissioner Boucher will be attending. Friday, nothing scheduled. Saturday, Dickinson Run Stream Cleanup over New Windsor. Commissioner Boucher will be attending. Commissioner Wance has the podcast on the 6th. Wow.
I think that'd be the last one.
I think it is. November 7th, nothing scheduled. November 8th, I will be attending the Ag Center Board meeting. On Wednesday, November 9th, I will be no, that is canceled at 8 a.m. Mr. Inglis is going to be out of country. So we just got notification that that's postponed. There is a Veterans Day event at Westminster High School, Westminster Senior Center, at 9 a.m. Commissioner Frazier will be attending. Commissioner Weaver and I will be attending the American Legion Post 31 Salute to Service Luncheon. There's a Board of Education meeting that late afternoon I'll be attending. On Thursday, November 10th, open session. Transition of Historic Preservation Commission to Planning Committee. Ms. Eisenberg and her team will be presenting. Adoption of Chapter 34. Really looking forward to Mr. Burke facilitating this conversation of ethics ordinance amendments. Carroll County Water Resources Element Update, Mr. Hine. CIS Endpoint Security Services Renewal, and that'll be from IT, Mr. Ripper. 2022 Pipe Culvert and Storm Drain Rehabilitation from DPW. Retirement Party honoring Ms. Auerbach over at the Antrim. Commissioner Frazier will be attending.
It'll take me off of that.
Commissioner
I will
Frazier will not be attending.
I'm contemplating attending. I put it in my calendar, but I have to double check.
Okay.
Take my place.
Yes, sir. I'll eat your share of the
There'll
food.
be Goodwill Industries of the Monocacy Valley. I will be attending that, and then that evening at 6:30 is the Recreation Parks Volunteer of the Year program, where Commissioner Boucher, Wance, Weaver, and I will be attending. On Friday, November 11th, the county office will be closed in observance of Veterans Day. There's a American Legion Veterans Day program over at the Longwell Armory that I will be attending at 4 p.m.
You put me down for that as well.
Okay.
And also I'll be attending a Veterans Day observance at Gerstel Academy at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'll be that one
On the
also.
11th?
Yes.
Yeah, on the 11th.
At Gerstel.
And I know Vivian reached out to the public schools to find out Veterans Day events for the 11th, and once we get those, we'll solidify if anyone else is attending or participating. And then Saturday, Land Resource Management Environmental Symposium. Commissioner Frazier and Boucher will be attending, and Commissioner Weaver will be doing the podcast. Okay, did I capture everything? Did I miss anything, Ms. Wanda?
The only one is the one for the one on November the 3rd for Ted Zaleski. That's moved to November the 10th. Item number 13. First quarter, fiscal year 23.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Okay. At this time, what I need is a motion to Adjourn?
No. Need a motion to go into
We're
close
doing-
for legal advice
Yeah, that's what I need.
That's
Okay.
closed for legal advice and potential litigation matter.
and potential litigation
Thank you.
matters.
I have a second on that.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then,
Motion to adjourn after legal advice.
okay, I got a motion and a second to adjourn afterwards. All in favor? Aye. Against?
No.
4-1.